folks. Christy and Jen here with Scott off the press, and Black. We got all excited and said we were going to do this podcast, and then like a couple months later,
it's been a long time. Kids into the mix, a cat, a turtle, lizards.
Yes, life has been insane. But we have a very special guest. Tim runs his mouth on Twitter. Tim Young, and he's an author, a comedian, Washington Times columnist, all of the things, so many things. But I don't know how you have time for anything because I follow Twitter feed, Tim, and it's just like constant flow of amazing content and little quips that you come up with. But yeah, thanks for taking the time to be on with us.
By the way, I look like total white trash right now because I got like a 32 ounce. So this is like, have you guys been to HTO? You're Texans. Do you have an HTO near you?
No.
They don't sponsor me, so this is fucking free shit.
free content here.
But this is like my unsweet tea. They have like 40 different types of tea. They have like 40 locations too, but they have like 40 types of tea. And I go and get my like sugar-free tea because I'm a loser right now.
How's that compared to Buc-ee's? That blew my mind.
Oh, so the whole place is tea at this place. Like,
really?
So Buc-ee's only has a couple of, so they have like a million flavors, and this is like blueberry and wild berry tea, and I like feel like I'm getting flavor when most people, if you have sugar regularly, you'd probably taste this and be like, this tastes awful. But to me, this is amazing right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm
you were just telling us that you have figured out the way for quick weight loss, and I would love to know the tricks because I've been packing on the pounds like crazy. I was told it's because of the frequencies in 5G, but you know, at least that way that I don't have to like take responsibility for anything. It's clearly the 5G that has made me gain weight.
Yeah. That's fair. That's what it is. No, you just have to stop drinking. For me, it's just you stop drinking for 2 weeks and suddenly like full clothes are falling off of you. I hate it because I really love bourbon. I do a bourbon podcast. It's called Let's Drink Bourbon with the founder of Angels Envy. And our first guest was Brad Paisley. It was pretty dope. And so I have this crazy collection. This is only a part of it. I have about 700 bottles in the collection. The wall over there is bourbon. The wall over there is bourbon. There's some stuff back there. And I have closets of it too. But so I really enjoy drinking, and I don't drink a lot, but it doesn't take a lot.
I love how you said that. I really enjoy drinking.
It's weird. So like, it's so weird for people who are stupid, and we'll probably get into this in the middle of this. Like, I deal with so many fucking idiots all the time. I'm allowed to swear on this, right?
You can go right ahead.
I mean, cool. Facebook allows swearing, right? Twitter allows porn. So I mean, I know you have a problem
I've made it
there.
in life when my wife has edited me from cussing on broadcast. So it's yeah. This is
there you go.
Go right ahead.
So no, I mean, like you just deal with so many fucking idiots, and like so like liberals on Twitter hate me because of my opinion, and then conservatives will get on me because I'm not like socially conservative enough, or I don't like do whatever, and they don't understand. People don't understand that you can have a massive collection of bourbon and not be an alcoholic,
right?
Or like a drunk. And so like, you know, like 3 drinks, like, man, when I was in DC, most people in DC can throw down, and you can do like 6 to 8 bourbons or whiskeys and still like get tons of policy done. You'd be shocked at how much people can consume and do well. But like 3 a day is a lot when you think about it. It's like 300 calories on the front end, and then the alcohol converts to sugar and screws up all of your digestion on the back end. And so that's usually what my average is a week. I figured out. So I cut it out altogether, and that's 2,100 calories that's gone on top of all the other digestion stuff. And you just drop weight like, and I hate it because I love the industry and I love the juice and the whole thing. But when I'm off of it, I like feel great and lose weight and look whatever.
See, I'm like a one stiff drink when I come home. Kind of, Christy will tell you. I like my bourbons, but I'm a huge mezcal guy, and I got into that through bourbons. So I love the smoky agave elixir, as they say. I think it is tequila is to wake the living, mezcal is to wake the dead. So. But I'm a huge fan of it. But Christy will tell you when I come home, I'm the cook in the family. I cook for the kids, cook for Christy, and I make that one stiff drink at the end of the day, and I start to cook dinner. So I've after all these years of working in bars and then running bars, because that was always my evening side hustle, I've kind of cut back to my one, but honestly, it's not helping my figure.
Well, my stupid shit. So I'll go to a place and I'll be like, I'm going to be healthy tonight. So there's there are a bunch of really good bourbon places around here. I live near Grapevine, and nothing directly in Grapevine, but outside. And so when I go around, like I'll do dumb shit. Like I'll be like, I'll just have hummus and veggies to be healthy, and then have like 2 bourbons, and I'm blackout drunk. Like
well, like, I mean, you're a cheaper date that way, Tim.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I catch monkeypox and it's a downward spiral.
I mean, yeah, if you occasionally, if you're a straight man that occasionally hooks up, you might be at risk for monkeypox. But that's the latest health warning is all you straight men that are just occasionally, hooking up with other men.
The Down Low Brothers Club.
You might be more at risk for monkeypox. I don't know how you can still call yourself straight, but this is science. # science.
Every woman that I knew who used dating apps in DC, when they would go out with a guy, like literally every guy except for me, apparently, had the same story where they would like have a conversation where they're like, I love the Redskins. We can't call them that anymore, but like, I love the Redskins and the Nationals. And like, I go to such and such for concerts. I've sucked a dick. And then, sometimes I go to and they're like, whoa, whoa. And so like, literally, I heard that story so many times from women where like guys would try to like slip it in. Like that's a whole nother, I get it. But like, if you think about it, like it's like so common there that these guys are like, I'm not gay, but it's like, nah, dude, you're gay. Like that's gay. Like I've never, if I could have even the inkling of being attracted to dudes, I'd probably have a national TV show by now. But
that's what's why I've been ranting for months to my wife, about this of the monkeypox kind of debacle and that. How is it that you have all this time leading up to Pride Month that they know about this?
Yep.
You hear absolutely no public health messaging, no booths at Pride Month, and it's just send everybody on their way. And then now you're watching the CD. What is it?
CDC.
Walensky? Is
Rachel Walensky.
Yeah. Watching her stumble over, the men that have sex with men community, like she starts stumbling over the words. And I'm like, what the hell is this lady talking about?
Uh-huh.
Like, just outright say it. And I'm even watching, what was it? Fox Business, one of the shows. And they're like, well, no, you can't say that it's bigoted. I'm like, it's not. What's bigoted about it?
As my buddy Ned Ryan dropped in, he was like, don't have gay orgies this month. And Kennedy was like, that's bigoted. It's like, dude,
yeah,
the statistics are there.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
Well, I mean, that's a problem when you skew definitions of words and make everything just fluid, is because now you, instead of being able to come to the very community that is most at risk, and if you truly cared about them, you would have warned them well, at least tried. But since everything is fluid and everything is just gray areas now, they can say things like, well, you can be gay but identify as straight or whatever. I mean, it just like makes everything so confusing, and then you can't even like direct your message because everything is just, I don't know, like truth is what you make it,
Well, they say it really small in the bottom of the articles, like, so this originated from essentially a rave between two men that had sex with each other in Spain, and then all of a sudden it's like traveling around the world and gets here. And I don't know. It's all nuts to me. Every time I see a damn article with the whole month coming for rainbow everything, I don't really care if you're gay. Go about your life doing what you do, but no messaging. So you let us know everything's love is love, but no messaging on something that can effectively grow a bunch of boils in your asshole.
I'm not worried about it. I don't know about you guys. I'm not worried about it at all.
Well, they're gonna try with the fear porn. But let's before we dig too deep into any of these topics, let's take a step back, like to get a little background. Basically, we were able to pull this together because John and Tim, you are from Baltimore, or you were just living there at the time?
No, I grew up in Baltimore. And by the way, I owe you an apology because, like, so when you talked about earlier, when you're like, how do you have time for anything? I don't. And I was when we were originally going to do this, I was in Louisville and for a month filming the first couple of episodes of this bourbon podcast on top of running like 5 or 6 other things. And like the scheduling screwed up or something. You had a family thing. And I was like, no. So I'm very direct about things sometimes, but I didn't mean to be. If I came off the wrong way with that, by the way, because I literally get overwhelmed. Like I had the other day. So I'm gonna hijack.
I don't know anyone like that.
People that are really direct and
Yeah.
I know.
So I went off on so this is the kind of shit that happens to me. So like the other day I'm writing children's books for adults that I think are hilarious, and obviously like I think I'm great. Once in a while I find myself very unattractive but very brilliant. But so like I'm working with this illustrator, and this illustrator chick, I was giving her a hell of a deal. So I gave her like 50-50 on the back end being an illustrator. And she calls me up and she goes, I think we should sell the book to something. And I go, I'm sorry, that's not for you to determine. And then she's like, well, what's your marketing plan? I go, that's not for you to, like, what are you talking about? And this is why you don't work with like millennials and stuff. And she's like, well, like, I mean, how are we going to move forward with this? Like, how am I going to make money on this? I go, you're going to get 50-50 on the back end when I sell this. Do you think I'm not going to sell this book? And so like, this is a conversation that happens at like 10:30 in the morning in the middle of like me, like prepping to host like radio the next day and do all this other stuff. And I basically just fired her on the spot. But like that kind of stuff pops up on me because I work on a million things and nothing ever happens smoothly. And so I'm very like, that's it. Like if you can't like cancel something on me, I'm like, nah, that's it. Go away. And I have this like instant freak out. And then I come back and I'm like, oh God, I was really an asshole. To you guys, I was an asshole. So I'm sorry. But to her, fuck her. But like, that's like,
well, see, I told Christy, don't worry. He's from Baltimore. It's all going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's the thing. So anyway, so sorry to hijack the show there. Go and we can talk for as long as you want, by the way. I'm here. I got nothing tonight. I dumped the girl I was supposed to go out with tonight, so we're good.
Oh my gosh. Well, I appreciate the apology, although unnecessary, and I get it. And this is why I do find this fascinating, though, because, you know, I'm just born and raised Midwest, Toledo area, and he's from Baltimore, and you know, this has been our first year of marriage, and there are times with me or with the kids that he's just so straightforward that it's like, oh, that hurt me.
I'm like, you culturally don't understand.
And he's
honey.
like, no, it's because I'm from Baltimore. Like that's always his backup.
Yeah,
like,
the kids,
it's just because I'm from Baltimore.
The kids are always making fun of the way I talk. I'm like, look, believe it or not everybody sounds like people from Ohio.
Yeah. Yeah, no, people don't understand directness just in general, especially people in the Midwest. And they think that I'm mean sometimes, and I'm not. I'm just like, that's just how it is. Like, that's just it. And like, I don't argue things with people anymore either. This is actually when I am kind of a dick. I just stopped arguing with people. I'm like, there's no sense in arguing back and forth. I think I'm right. You think you're right. Let's just walk away.
Yeah, it's easier that way.
Why? No, it's called being an adult. It's the whole premise of like my no brand, honestly, and it's like my little, like it was the tattoo that I got years ago. I got it on my arm there. It's like a thing. And made the hat. And I just think it's respectful to just say no. It's the best sentence in the world. Just say no and walk away. So that's the thing. Anyway, sorry, I hijacked everything. So we started in Baltimore.
This is the point in talking to you, believe it or not.
Well, so the crazy thing about this for me is that, so, you know, I married my wife. I moved to Ohio from Baltimore. I decided to essentially move into the hood over there, and I started buying up old homes. And this is kind of how I connected with my wife in a way, because I was doing that, and I helped open up a country bar there that happened to main emphasis on bourbon. So I love the wall behind you. And then that's how I met my wife from her being the news anchor. I would comp the news station when they come to the bar, and then it was, wait a minute, who is this white dude over in the hood buying the homes? What was that?
You found like the smart one, right? Because reporters are dumb. Like local news people are the dumbest people. I had a deal at Fox 5 in DC. We can talk about it all you want, by the way. I have no NDA with these people. They are the dumbest fucking people.
I could say that about a majority of people that I'd say Christy worked with.
Yeah.
There's some good ones, and then there was some. It's as you said before, that young crowd feel like they hold some type of lantern of truth, you know, in their job in journalism. And what they say is the authority on everything. And I'm thinking, meanwhile, me as the boyfriend, I'm sitting in the background listening to the Zoom calls with my wife pre on the air. And it's like, these people are really, really this full of shit.
Yes. Yeah. My favorite local news reporter now, and there's one in DC, but there's one at almost every station. They think that for some reason, if they dance on TikTok, that they're going to be more famous or more sought after. And like my favorite is like the ones that'll be like on their reel. It'll be like them doing a very serious. They'll be like, tonight there was a rape murder of a family of 7. And blah, blah, blah. And then the very next thing is them like doing like a TikTok dance. And you're like, what the who edited this? Like,
well, I mean, one thing I talk about all the time is just how much social media did destroy the whole profession of journalism, just in so many ways. One story I share a lot is, you know, we would always have a board at work showing who was #1 on the social media engagement. And of course, I'm competitive. I wanted to be #1, and I would do an investigative piece on a story I worked hard on, and maybe be shy of making #1 on the board. But if I went to Sonic and tried out their new pickle slush and took a selfie with it, well, I would shoot to number one, and then my boss would be like, everyone needs to be more like Christy so they can get more social media engagement.
Pickle
I'm like,
slushes for
I
everyone.
posed in a picture with a pickle slush. Like this is like what's being encouraged.
That work great in the male demographic.
Or like you were saying, Tim, people would cover like something serious like a murder or a rape, and obviously that's their story assignment for the day. But then you would see this same reporter maybe outside the house, like in between live shots, like just a selfie of them smiling, and it's like, dude, do you not realize how completely inappropriate that is to show that you're covering something that is tragic or of super importance, and you're in between live shots just doing a smiling selfie? Like, really? Come on.
Also it's the same, and so the same problem happens with no offense about your pickle slushy, but
I mean, it was a good slushy though, I will say that.
But the same thing is with like conservative women on Instagram that claim to be like influencers, and Turning Point USA is a real problem with this. They think that they are somehow popular and somehow like moving the needle in politics because creepy guys and teenagers want to jerk off to them on Instagram.
Yes.
That doesn't equate to any kind of value in politics. And I don't understand how this hasn't like quite landed yet. It's probably because the decision makers are creepy old guys that jerk off to these girls on the internet. But like, that's ultimately what this comes down to, right? I mean, that's who's following you. Nobody should give a shit. Okay. Unless you're like doing something like remarkable, nobody should really give a shit if like a girl's putting her butt on the internet. Right. Except for like creepy people. Like it's just, or teens, like preteens. Man, I wish that Instagram existed when I was 12, right? I mean, would have made life easier.
Yeah, well, we've had this conversation a lot about that concept. I feel like there's this certain mold, specifically as you're saying, with amongst conservative women's on social media platforms.
Yeah.
But then also there is kind of a mold with guys that they try to form too with that kind of millennial group, to where sometimes I get to a point where I'm just like, all right, look, this is great, but at some point it seems very molded to me and I can't get down with it.
Yeah, the concept of like owning the lids and being based or whatever, like I think it's fucking dumb. I got asked to do an interview years ago that was like, what was your favorite moment owning the libs? And I was like, none, because it's not what I do. I just share my opinion.
You just say no.
And yeah, like, I mean, like I share my opinion. I'm not out there like trying to be some meme or like trying to do something. Like if my stuff takes off, it takes off. But like, that's not the concept of it. I've had, on the same hand, I've had like rich people try to like pay me a lot of money, like very wealthy conservatives try to pay me a lot of money to teach their kids to be social media influencers. I've had that offer like 4 times in the last year.
Wow.
And I'm like, no, I can't. Like there's no, like, what am I don't want to help your fucking kid be an idiot on the internet because they want to get famous or be famous. Like I don't even view myself as famous, even though I have like, I think it's almost like 1 million followers over on all my social media. But I just don't I don't get it. Like, and like I get recognized and stuff too, but like, I just like put words on the internet. Half the time I'm on the toilet or, in the middle of something, and I just have a thought. And
well, Tim, let's talk about your evolution, if you will. Like where you started from. I mean, for me, it's kind of fascinating that, you are both from Baltimore and you shockingly ended up more conservative minded. So how have you always had this more conservative mind, and how did you fall into all of these experiences? Like, what were you doing before? How did you come down this path?
So if I may, real quick, Tim,
yeah,
as you're thinking on that, what's funny about all this is that me and you knew each other all these years ago, back in, like I said, I think it's been 2009-ish.
Yeah.
Maybe 2010 was the last time I saw you in Baltimore. Me and my brother had a t-shirt shop in Old Dundalk on Dundalk Avenue, and you lived in those apartments above.
So I
lived in a building down and above.
In other words, how did John make you successful?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I lived in those apartments and I left because there was a drug raid down the hallway from me. So they had redone. So Dundalk, for people who don't know, who's paying attention, like Dundalk is like the white trash part of Baltimore County on the other side of, I mean, it's good people, but it's still white trash on the other side of Baltimore so I grew up on the west side and Dundalk's on the east side. And they had redone the original strip mall in America. That was the original strip mall in all of America, by the way, that we
really?
worked out of there. Yeah. That was the OG, the absolute very first strip mall ever built in America. And so they had redone the apartments. My friend was in charge of like the revitalization of Dundalk, and he said, "Hey, come move into these. It's a great deal."
Hadfield,
Huh?
Joe Hadfield.
Yeah. Is he still alive?
Y- I was gonna ask you. I haven't heard anything about Hadfield since that time.
Yeah, I
But
don't know.
now
where he
everyone
went.
else in that circle, for some reason, is running Baltimore County. Johnny Oshesky Jr. and all the rest. So I'm
But
like, maybe I should have stuck around.
it was Jordan Hatfield, right? That was his name.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
was in
Jordan.
grad school with him, and he convinced me to go in because it was like $725 a month for like a monster apartment. And I mean, I made it Playland up there. I was the first person in. They wrote an article on me in the Baltimore Sun about it, actually. They used to use, when the county executives would come out and tour the apartments to like give them more money, they used to only bring them to my apartment. I thought that was another thing that was kind of interesting. But yeah, I don't know where that dude is now. I mean, he disappeared off the face of the planet. He literally
Well, yeah, he was very politically ambitious. Look, I grew up playing baseball with him, like playing rec sports. But when it came to pot, I didn't get down with that whole clique of Democrats in that area. They had, their whole families had all been in power for maybe 40 plus years. Jordan was kind of trying to piggyback on with them. And to be honest with you, I scolded him publicly a lot for all of that. So we butted heads at the end over that. And as I said, I haven't seen him since. I know he left and moved. And then I went and I moved to Ohio a couple years after that.
Yeah, dude, I don't know what happened to that guy. But
That
yeah,
was like walk out front and there's junkies nodding out on the sidewalk in front of Rite Aid. And
they had a couple of homeless people froze to death in the pavilion that were across the street from my place. The guy next door, actually, one of the few times I ever called the cops on somebody, the guy next door punched a homeless person outside, like some douchebag that lived next door. And I got the cops to arrest the guy. Actually, I let him in the building and let him arrest the guy. Yeah. Hey, can I be rude for 1 second? Can I run to the bathroom real quick?
No, go ahead, man.
Go ahead.
Are we live? How live are we?
We are live, but we'll talk amongst ourselves.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
talk amongst ourselves.
I'll explain why in a bit. Hold on, I'll be right back.
Okay, not a problem.
Okay. So as we heard earlier, Tim Young is on a diet. I didn't know it was a purging diet, but maybe that's what we'll find out because he did have to go to the bathroom. But we'll see. We'll see when he comes back.
No, it like I said, that's what's wild about the whole thing, meeting you and then what was it? Just one night we're on Twitter. I'm like, no, I know that guy, Tim Young, because Tim posts all kinds of tweets all day, every day, and they're always pretty damn good and does a great job at pissing a lot of people off. And it is funny to read those feeds of the comments that he gives. And it's just funny to see 2009, 2010ish, and here we are to 2022. So 12 years ago.
Yeah, and so when he returns, I want to hear more about basically how he came from, because when I talked to him before, I'm like, hey, my husband who also grew up in Baltimore, and well, yeah, I mean, you knew each other in Baltimore, and he's like, oh yeah, he's like, that's back when I had like 10,000 followers on Twitter. So, I mean, that's practically about the same.
Yeah, because I remember when he was doing different things, comedy and stuff like that. I mean, like I said, I normally would always see Tim in the mornings when I'd go to the coffee shop because I owned a t-shirt shop and I'd print t-shirts and embroider hats. And it was me and my brothers. We renovated and restored one of the old spaces in that original strip mall. And when I say strip mall, of course, I mean a store, not like an actual, like a mall where it's strippers and all kinds of different stores.
But it could be that because we are talking about
strip mall, though, is it's like the outdoor mall. Like literally, though, that post office, I think, was one of the first ones in Baltimore County that was there.
Yeah, that's an old post office too.
Yeah, the whole thing was like crazy there.
Yeah, and what's really sad. What do you need?
Give me this. Go ahead.
What's really sad about that part of Baltimore County, and actually many parts of Baltimore County but specifically that one is with Bethlehem Steel being there. The minute that plant closed, it's almost like I noticed this moving to the Midwest. All these manufacturing plants close. All of a sudden, alcoholism and drugs go in. The next thing you know, you give it a couple decades, and look what happens. As you said, it white trash, trailer park type shit, right?
I mean, there were good people there, right? And
there's great people in Dundalk.
Actually, my favorite part of Dundalk is that you know who the most famous person is that came out of Dundalk, right?
Oh, I could tell you a bunch. Like this is an Adam Sandler song, but go ahead.
Well, who was the dude who did the voice?
Kevin Clash.
Yes. And so, like the school he went to back in the day, like it was like kind of still like segregated and like hated on. And so when he comes to town, he would only visit that school and only give money to that school.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was brilliant. It was
Really?
brilliant.
Well, you know who else he was? He was Kevin. He was the voice of Splinter on Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, and Elmo and Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, and then, and then that all right, so that part of Dundalk Turner Station, so you had that segregated community, right? To
Yep.
where pretty much if you were black, you grew up in Turner Station, and then actually there was a white part they called White Turners, is what they called it. But for some reason, all these people came out of that area. The first black man in space came out of Turner Station. The voice of Elmo, Henrietta Lacks, Oprah's little movie thing she did. So I was always fascinated, like, what's in the water over there?
Yeah, right. It's such a weird, but so the thing is, like, it's a great neighborhood and it's right on the water, and it's like so, it's gorgeous. Like if you like, for me, for like, it was literally $725 a month. I think my apartment was like 900 square feet or something. It was all windows, which they were historic windows, which I learned later, not good for the winter.
Yeah.
That was the worst. My first electric bill, I kid you not, was $600, and I was like, what?
Yeah,
Like, because it was electric heat. But like I ended up moving there. I stayed there for about a year and a half, and then I moved to Ford Avenue from there. But I loved being there. The craziest thing. So I'm shocked I wasn't fatter when I lived there, because there was this diner that was on the corner, like a short order grill place.
Yeah.
Not a diner, but like a short order grill. And they used to make
Scoops.
What?
I think it was Scoops ice cream.
Was it?
I believe it was Scoops.
It was a place that did omelets. They did a thing that, like, they made a cream chip beef omelet, which really is the most disgusting thing you could eat. And I don't know how they did it, but it was amazing. Like, so like literally this monster, like 5-pound omelet with cream chip beef in the middle, which is a Baltimore thing, right?
Did you top it with Scrapple?
Put it like everything but, right? And then it would come, and like, so like if I thought about eating that now, I would throw up. Like, honestly, like that, but it was still amazing. I used to go down there and get that. And like, I'm trying to think, like, that neighborhood, like, you're not picking up women in that neighborhood. And like, if you go over to like Camden, Canton is like right there in Baltimore. Like, it's like about 2-3 miles away. Like, if you're like, hey, I live in Dundalk, come back, girls are like, nope. Anybody knew better?
The outskirts of Canton.
Yeah. Your best bet was to like go up 95 and like hit like what was up there? So like White Marsh, right? You go up to White Marsh is your best bet to like that.
Now White Marsh is hood pretty much, man. The whole dynamic on Baltimore County from the city, you know, as all those communities, you know, were redone in Baltimore City, and then everything kind of pushed into the outskirts of the county. Because I have my time in Baltimore was pretty much split between Woodlawn and Dundalk, because I lived across from Security Square Mall. My grandmother moved over there in like the 60s. So I worked at Security Square Mall at Old Navy.
Nice.
selling men's jeans to black women, and then I'd go over and then I'd hop on the number 20 line and head to Dundalk and go to
used to ride the bus to Dundalk from Old Navy and Security Square. Jesus Christ.
That's the longest bus route in Baltimore, and I rode it every day for 2 years, my last 2 years of high school. It was insane.
You should get like a Purple Heart for that.
I should. I should.
That is such a scary
So imagine, like, my upbringing. I was raised Mormon, Tim. I don't know if I ever talked to you about that in the past.
No,
so for me, I was raised Mormon. I had a Mormon mother. Well, I have a Mormon mother. She's not dead. And then I have a school teaching, more agnostic, atheist stepfather. And so my upbringing was very much like Christopher Columbus is divinely inspired by mom. And then my dad's like, nah, he murdered Indians. You know, and that was very much my upbringing. I didn't get along with my mother during pretty much the adolescent years. So I had moved to Woodlawn with my grandmother. And that was my last 2 years of high school, where this back forth between Security Square Mall and Dundalk Community College.
Wow. You know, I was on the other side. I was on the good side of Baltimore County, but still the poor side of Baltimore County. So like we had, I went to Lansdowne High School, where we were number 1 in narcotics and teen pregnancy when I left. Number 2.
Oh my gosh.
When I graduated. Actually, do you guys follow country music at all?
Yeah, a little bit.
Do you know Low Cash?
Why does that sound familiar?
They've done a bunch of songs, country song.
If I heard the song, I'm better with country. I'm better hearing the song than I am for names, because I will say I'm more so like I like the old outlaw country stuff.
Yeah, everybody does. But they're like these are like modern guys, and they one of them grew up in Riverview, like basically like down the street from Lansdowne. We were talking about it on my podcast on the that comes out later on this month. And he was like, my parents pulled me out of Lansdowne High School because there was a shooting the first week I was there. And like, they found the money to send me to private school. Like, that's how bad, like, so like I knock Dundalk and say it's white trash, but we actually had the worst as far as demographics go in Baltimore County and like numbers and crime and stuff like that. My high school was the worst.
Look,
Like, beyond.
Lansdowne, you could wander through, you could drive through those streets and see hookers out there.
Yeah.
I used to work at Clipper City, and me and my buddy would always go into Lansdowne and stop at little spots to get lunch.
Yeah. No, it was a bad place. I mean, so that like, that's kind of where like things started, I think. So like for me, there's your background. I grew up in a really bad part of town.
So you grew up in a really bad part of town. Is that what gave you material for comedy? Like, did this all start with comedy?
It was kind of comedy and politics at the same time. And it always was. My first op-ed I wrote when I was 14.
Really?
In the Arbutus Times. And I got a pedophile teacher fired.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Because I wrote, and it was kind of more influenced by my parents. There was a teacher at Lansdowne High School who used to run their like student government.
Mm-hmm.
And he was taking kids up to his cabin like regularly on the weekends.
Yikes.
And I heard enough stories, and I wrote an op-ed. My very first op-ed when I was 14 was in the Arbutus Times about how I thought it was inappropriate in 9th grade that this guy, and by the way, he was my homeroom teacher and student government.
Crazy.
And I remember I wrote it about how I thought it was inappropriate, and this guy came up to me and he goes, "It is disgusting that you wrote that," and blah 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 blah. And if I would throw you out of this if I could. Anyway, he was fired like 4 months later.
Wow.
That's wild.
The same guy is the one that came up to you and said it's disgusting. Oh my goodness.
I turned into a real fucking sociopath early on. When I think something is right, I go cold. Like, you can say anything to me and I'm like, whatever. And like, that was the starter. And then I really liked stand up. And then there was another guy named Tim Young who's in stand up comedy. And to be honest with you, I haven't performed as much as I should. And I haven't performed, man, I host conferences and I do colleges and stuff. But like, it's the most work for the least reward. And, you know, I run like a clothing thing now with the no brand stuff and internet. I consult a bunch of members of Congress. They actually wanted me to run for Congress this time. And then I get an occasional hosting thing. I write the stuff. I host for SiriusXM. I'm on call for them. I don't have my own show. It makes no sense, but I'm on call for them. I'm up for a new docuseries that's coming up on a big network. And like, so all that other stuff, like, I don't have time to be on the road. Just really, I don't have time to be on the road. And it kills me because, like, you know, people are like, "Oh, he's a failed." That's my favorite. My favorite troll on Twitter is like, people are like, "He's a failed comic," and they always are responding to like a tweet with like 20,000 likes. It's like a joke. They're like, "He's a failure," and I'm like, "Yeah, cool."
I always thought it was wild, man.
With like 5 followers or something.
I always thought it was wild just to see. Like I said, every now and again I would see. You know, I remember a couple years went by when I left Baltimore, and because I didn't really dabble in Twitter much. But then all of a sudden I would see your tweets and I'm like, damn, that's Tim from the shopping center. Cause I would normally bump into you having coffee or something in the morning.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, look at him, man. And I would say you've always actually been consistent of continually moving forward, doing something. So I always thought that was really cool, man.
It keeps me off the streets, man. Like, so I'm always throwing darts to see what sticks. And now there's a lot that are sticking and I'm getting recognized by a lot of stuff. It's crazy to me. So like I have you know, I don't know if you know, you can set like Google search things when like things come up, like you can have alerts for yourself. And so every day there's an article or something that's quoting me, and it's big places that quote me. And it's kind of crazy to see, like, you know, I just put words on the internet and, you know, a lot of people get big heads about it. And I of course think I'm smarter than people. Because people are stupid, but actively stupid. But like when I get quoted by a bunch of stuff in a week, I'm like, this is crazy. And I guess it's just very easy. It's like lazy journalism, right? They can just pull my quote off the internet and be like, Tim Young says this.
Well, you know, me and Christy had been going to these school board meetings in Texas because Round Rock ISD has been hit national news, Fox, everything over these school board meetings we go to. And I went up at one and just like ended it with "Blessed be the fruit, commanders of Gilead." And the local news at Austin closely, I'm like, why are they quoting me? Like, what I said was just more to be an ass, you know? And of course it's quoted like, look, we got these right-wing extremists. They're spitting lines from The Handmaid's Tale.
The Handmaid's Tale quote.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, my favorite was, and I think the most ridiculous was like the day after the Grammys last year. I said something because it was when they were banning Dr. Seuss books, and I said, "Isn't it crazy that like the lyrics to WAP, what Cardi B's WAP are more acceptable in schools than Dr. Seuss books?" And I didn't tag her, but she found the tweet and tweeted at me 3 times, and it became like a national news story that there was a
Yeah, it's
feud and
wild.
stuff. And I'm reading this, like the New York Daily News is writing an article about a feud between Cardi B and Tim Young, and I'm like, I don't what? Like somebody actually
That's
sent it to me
hilarious.
too, and I was like, this doesn't make any like I literally, I kid you not, I tweeted that on the toilet.
Yeah, it is interesting. I still kind of remember when I started seeing like even on brands like getting a Snickers bar and all of a sudden it's like follow us on Facebook. I always thought that was odd when I started seeing the branding of social media sites on actual products and then watching news broadcasts and it's like, well, so and so tweeted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as
No,
you just said, I like what you said. It's kind of like, well, yeah, okay, it's some words. And
I mean,
so the hell, what if that's what I said online?
it literally, it makes no sense. And when people are like, like they say that they're an influencer or whatever, like if I tweet things, like there are lobbyists that come to me and they're like, if you tweet something, you can get movement done in Congress. And like there are a bunch of congressmen that follow me, a bunch of senators that follow me and stuff. And then I get phone calls from their offices sometimes to follow up on like things that I have to say. And I think that's just super fucking weird. Right.
Right.
Because who am I? I'm a guy, like I'm just a guy that like before the 2016 election, I think I had like 20,000 followers on Twitter. And
That's
now I
wild.
I just went over 600,000 the other day. And then like I've got like on Getter, I've got like 150,000 on, Instagram's like 100. And so like it's like you look at it and I'm like, I just have done the same thing the entire time. There's nothing new.
So do
And
you attribute like the environment, like how contentious it is
yeah.
as being what kind of
Oh yeah. Well, that and people are afraid to say stuff. So I get a lot of, one of my biggest compliments I get, and people will email me and tell me this, and they're like, "You say stuff that I wish I could say and don't." And because I don't think anything I do is remarkable, but there are so many people who don't do remarkable things that are remarkable for doing them now. And like I think the biggest example of that is Joe Rogan, right? Because Joe Rogan just asks questions that people want to ask. He's just a
Right.
curious guy. He doesn't admit to being smarter than anyone else. He tells people not to take his advice on things. He just shares his opinion and talks to people and asks reasonable questions. And he's become incredibly famous
Yeah.
because of
Just
that,
doing that. Yeah.
just being himself. Like there's no, I mean, that's the amazing thing. And that's what, like, some of my comedy friends who actually don't hate that I'm kind of famous or whatever I am now. They're like, dude, you've made it as you. Like you haven't, like, you don't have a shtick. Your shtick is you just show up and talk. And like
Right.
when I do colleges and stuff like that, I can write 30 to 40 minutes of stuff the day before. And that, like, normal comics would be like, oh my God, blah, blah. But my stuff is news stuff. So if I go and make fun of the news, which is all I do all day long, like
Right.
if you follow my tweets, like I'll take a topic and then basically I'll just throw every workshop, tweet that would be workshopped in a writer's lounge or writer's room just out and see what works. I don't care. Like I'll have like 4 or 5 ideas in a row and just boop, 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 boop.
Right.
And we'll see what goes. And I don't care because I won't delete this stuff unless I have a really, really bad misspelling that kills me. But so that's what I do when I do live stuff, is that like, and people kind of know me now, so there's a little bit of a built-in warm feeling. But like if I do like a conference or I do a college, I will write the stuff the day before because it's no different than writing the tweets. And I just show up and can talk. And then I have a couple of things that are, like more evergreen. And for the most part, that stuff that I do that day will never be done again because it's literally about the news right there. And 2 weeks later, not even that, like 5 days later, that's all dead material and nobody gives a
Right.
shit what it is. So like, it's very different than any kind of other stand-up thing where like people feel like it's like honing a craft or, like they have to get their perfect like hour down or 90 minutes down. My stuff is just like, I'm going to comment on the news. And it's going to be fresh stuff. It's almost going to feel like crowd work where you go back and forth with people in the audience and it's very low hanging fruit, but it is very low hanging fruit. And I can talk forever doing that. I mean, I'm starting to do Republican clubs here coming up just before the election. And like, I'm going, I'll do an hour easy, not even thinking about it. And with very little work, where like a lot of people put in a lot of effort to do stand up, and a lot of comics don't get it. And they hate that I do stuff like that because like they worked really hard to come up with a joke about, I don't know, some date or something that they had at some point. And my stuff is like, hey, did you see what Biden did the other day? He poops his pants. And it's like, okay, that's low hanging fruit, whatever, who cares? But it's funny. And it's like, know your audience and stuff. So it's just a very interesting, I'm in an interesting world. And my stand-up is very interesting. I miss it. And I want to be out doing more of it. But again, like with all the other projects I work on, it's like the lowest of the low.
You can only do so much. What has shaped your political views? Because, like I mentioned before, it is a little bit strange that you have two guys from Baltimore, which you definitely characterize as very blue, and somehow you guys made it out and are not that per se. So, what has shaped you the most in the way that you view politics?
Personal responsibility. It's the difference between both parties right now. It's the difference between conservatives and progressives or leftists right now. It's personal responsibility. I grew up very poor. I didn't realize how poor I was until I was later on in life when you realize your family was getting food from the church pantry because they weren't making it that month. But I didn't know that, and I knew that if I worked hard, I could get out of it. I didn't ask for more handouts. I realized that if I worked my ass off and became smart or did whatever, read books, I could go and provide for myself and get out of the bad situation I was in, even though I didn't realize it was bad. My parents just always said they wanted me to live a better life than them. And I think on the left, I don't think people on the left want handouts. They want to blame other people for their problems. They don't look in the mirror and go, all right, we can work and get out of this. The ones that do are everybody who always looks at it and goes, it's up to me to get out of here, does well. The people who don't and want to live off the system, make this world worse, and then they end up pointing more and more fingers at other people. It's the difference when you come down to a diet. So I'm on a diet right now. At one point in my life, I lost 130 pounds through law school, actually. So like when I met you, I wasn't fat. I was actually probably in great shape. But like, so there's a moment nowadays that people are encountering where you can either realize you're fat and go on a diet, or realize you're fat and then point to everybody else and tell them that they have to tell you you're beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between personal responsibility and wanting the world to correct for your own issues. And that's why like people like Lizzo and whatever, they're disgusting. They're disgusting pigs. And you can quote me forever on that. And they flaunt it and they're like, just be you and love you for you. And it's like, yeah, love you for you. But like, don't tell me this is healthy. And don't say, I mean, society knows that it's not healthy. Society knows that it's gross. I knew that my choice, like I was 320 pounds, literally 320 pounds, had a 19-inch neck, had a 54-inch waist. And you wake up and you're like, I can't do this anymore. And I need to do something. I can't continue on this path. And so, I mean, even right now, like I just dropped 15 in like 2 weeks from like literally doing nothing but changing my diet and not drinking this. But that's the difference. I can lift myself up and I need to take responsibility for my actions or I don't. And all of the policy, if you look at all of the policy across the board, all of the liberal and conservative policy is that division. Yeah. Even like mass shootings, right? So the government can take everyone's guns away because, it's obviously somebody else's fault. It's not mine. Or I can take personal responsibility and train myself with a gun and stop somebody who's going to be a bad guy.
Yeah. What's weird. What's weird for me is that so much of the gun thing is truly cultural. Coming from Baltimore with the way people kind of looked at guns for the most part, and then moving to Ohio where I don't need anything. I could just put it on my hip. And I mean, it was like that a decade ago. And I moved into the hood to where people in the hood were legally carrying guns.
Yep. And they should.
Right. So it was like, this isn't like as the narrative they like that. Well, it's just, these wild white people that want to run around with guns. No, this was black people in the hood. You know what I mean? Chilling with legal guns.
Dude, the thing is,
start nothing, won't be nothing type of deal. I felt like is what I ran into in Ohio. And I remember going on trips back home where I tell people like, look, they can just legally put it on their hip. They're like, that's crazy. It seems like there'd be a bunch of shootings. I'm like, well, maybe 30 this past year. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot better than the 400, 500, 600 you might get in Baltimore, right?
Yeah. No, and the thing is, too, so I worked in law school. I worked with at-risk inner-city youth. I helped them get their GEDs when they got out of juvie and did a bunch of stuff. And I learned much more about culture than I did in Lansdowne, even though I got a lot of it out of Lansdowne. And, man, you know what? There is such a conservative grounding in values in most Black communities, family values, going to church regularly, having all that there, that it really does come down to it's literally the family unit in a lot of areas. Like people just, as long as kids have the right role models growing up, they can get out of it. And so like, it's interesting. Like, I just don't know how conservatives lose minority communities, especially the Black community, other than the left screams you're racist all the time. And then occasionally there is an asshole, right? But like, for the most part, values and personal responsibility, all that lines up. Same with Hispanic communities, but the Hispanic community is totally shifted now. And illegal immigration does that because so many people came here legally to live the American dream and work their ass off. And now they're watching people get a handout. And it's like, no.
Well, we were just down in South Padre last weekend. We went on just a quick 2-day trip to get away. And this one Mexican guy pulled up in the car, and we were in a truck that had a big Texas flag and American flag draping off the back. Looked like we were in like some kind of like a flag parade or something. And this guy pulls up. He's like, "Hey, man, you got an extra flagpole you can sell me so I can put my flag up?" And we're like, "Well, no, we don't have one, but maybe Home Depot." And he's like, and then he's like, "America first, man." You know what I mean? God bless. And I'm like, this is wild. Like, here's this Mexican dude rolls up. I mean, looking at him, you wouldn't think that was going to be what he was about to yell out of his mouth. And of course, there's Myra Flores signs everywhere. You can tell something's about to happen down on the southern border as far as the elections.
Yeah, I mean, it's why Biden is completing the border wall now, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's another.
No, they're cleaning up a mess. They're cleaning up.
They're cleaning up the mess.
Real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at both of us. Did he have spicy Thai food too before he did this?
I'm on a diet too.
When you went away, I was like, well, at the beginning of this, Tim told us he wasn't a diet. I didn't know that was purging, but
well, yeah, it is. No, I had so I have a very terrible allergy to red pepper flakes, and I had spicy Thai, and they put red pepper flakes in that thing. They have to have because it immediately hits me, and so like that probably wasn't my only run. Wait, so Toledo, Ohio. So you were like the anchor in Toledo, Ohio?
yes. So there was a news station I grew up watching when I was a kid, and I, was like, oh, that'd be so cool to be on there with our version of the Anchorman. Seemed like a pipe dream, didn't think it would actually happen. But back to your personal responsibility, I was like, well, I'm gonna go give this everything I've got. I worked my way up from being the one-man band, with carrying the huge camera and everything else, to eventually getting there to being next to the legend I grew up watching, so grateful, so thankful that that's how it went. But when I had spent 3 years as the lead anchor there, I had an opportunity. My New York agent was like, they really want you in California. So I took the job in California in March of 2020. And if you'll recall what happened in March of 2020. So here I was a hometown girl. I grew up there. I went to college in the Toledo area. Then I got to be the lead news anchor there. And my main thing was I get to move across the country, learn a whole new community, get to talk about all these different things, and learn what makes other people tick. And then I end up there when all the news stations were talking about the same thing, obviously, the pandemic. I landed there right when the pandemic broke out. And so for the next, year and a half, I was talking about pandemic and election stuff. And that's it.
So annoying. So annoying.
Yeah.
But like you're a star. Like when you're the anchor in Toledo, Ohio, like you can't go to any Piggly Wiggly without people recognizing who you are, right?
Pretty much. I mean, that's what drove my kids nuts because we would go to the grocery store and they'd be like, Mom, can we just get in and out? I'm like, I'm sorry, But yeah, I mean, it was such a great experience though, because it's as much as I obviously dog on the news now, because I'm coming from a perspective from having done it so long and then having to see how much it's changed and how rotten it's gotten. As much as I do that, there was obviously really awesome things that I was able to do and be a part of. And that's what's cool about being a news anchor in like a smaller community, is because you can be so involved in the community and you can be at all these charity events and feel good about a lot of the stuff that we did. But it's just unfortunate. That's why I'm so passionate about how bad journalism in general has become, because in my mind, in my experience, it wasn't always this bad. Like this is just a joke at this point.
Are you union?
I was not. So in the news industry that I've always worked in, the talent generally wasn't union. It was more of like the camera ops and production that were union.
We had to join SAG to do all the Murdoch O&Os had to be in SAG. And
really?
So now I know what you made. And it's so when people if you see your local anchor, if you're watching this right now and you're in a town like Toledo and you see your local anchor at the grocery store, just give them $5. Just help them.
I know. It's funny
you see them on TV. They are not rich. These guys are making, I don't even want to, like nothing.
We were just talking about that.
No, I was talking about like people do tend to think that if you're a recognizable face and you're on TV that you're automatically rich. Like I was telling him that I would get like letters and emails saying like my daughter is sick with cancer. Like, can you, like acting like I had all this money. And I'm like, dude.
My
And I mean,
friend-
I felt like I made decent money for especially being in Toledo,
We're
Ohio.
like,
but
Christy, I have these leggings,
nothing-
and then if you sell these leggings and then get other people to sell these leggings, the next thing you know,
Whatever.
you're a part of a pyramid scheme.
Yeah. Well, that's my friend. I think she was in Bismarck, was a one-man bander in Bismarck coming out of school. And her colleagues, they would debate whether or not they would ask for less money so they could be on food stamps, because they were making, I think 19,000 was what they were starting at in Bismarck. And this was like a decade ago. Like people don't realize how little reporters get paid.
Reporters especially. I mean, there is a huge divide in the news industry. You do make like nothing. You basically have to have a situation with your parents to like fund your dream
Mhm.
at the beginning. I always actually had a situation where I was working both as a reporter and I had another whole nother job. That's how I made it work. But by the time that you do get like a lead anchor job or an anchor job, you are making decent money at that point. Nothing rich at all by any
Yeah.
means, but like standard living wages. But yeah, there's a huge divide there.
Oh my God. Like I know all about it. Like the thing was like, I did pretty well. Like against SAG-AFTRA, I would get like the minimums or whatever to be on screen the days that I would be in to do TV with local Fox. But then I realized like, cause I had multiple jobs. Right. And then I realized like the hot, TikTok dancer girls that are across from me that are doing like the horrible stuff and going out to like shootings and stuff, they're getting paid the same. Like I got to do goofy stuff in commentary, right? That was my fun thing. I used to do a segment called Take Tim to Work. And I go and just have fun at like a local business for like an hour and then come back and do like 2 media hits and I was done for the day. And then I'm watching these other people go out for like 6-8 hours in the field, like in like a terrible part of the neighborhood to talk about a murder. And I'm like, you're getting paid the same amount of money. Holy crap. And you don't realize it. Like and like no insurance, like, I mean, you have to hit like a certain minimum to get insurance from SAG-AFTRA and like a couple of like these guys are like, man, there is some real rough stuff when you think about it, especially like in a major market. So like Toledo and like Bismarck, like you can barely live on the money you're making, right? If you're making 19 to like $30,000, $40,000, you're barely making it there. But like in DC, if you're making like minimums, you're not living in DC.
Yeah,
like,
DC is like totally different than the whole damn rest of the country.
Yeah, it's almost as expensive, if not as expensive as like New York there now.
Yeah.
And so like I look at that and I'm like, good God, like again, you have to have like, that's why a lot of these girls have sugar daddies and sell feet pics and stuff on the internet. I knew a couple
have like their Cash App in their bio of their social media account.
Yeah.
This isn't my OnlyFans account, but it is my OnlyFans account.
I knew a girl who like would get her bills paid because a guy would send her shoes and she'd take feet pics in the shoes. Like I knew one of those.
That's
like she was
so
big
crazy.
conservative. It's always social conservatives, by the way, that go for these deals. But like then randomly she'd be like, I'm going on vacation or whatever. And I'm like, I bet you are. I was like, that's a working vacation, man.
It's okay. It's just a picture of my feet. I could see.
And then she's on vacation and there's only pictures of her. And I'm like,
yeah, she's with the dude. But no, you mentioned something about that, about how you feel like you're not necessarily pleasing either side, that there's some on the conservative side that feel like you're not conservative enough. Can you explain to me what you mean by that?
Yeah, fuck them. When you I'm never going to make anybody happy. Look, I'll never speak at CPAC.
But what is it? Like, what do they want you to ascribe to or be like? Is it because you cuss like a sailor, or like, what is it that
or have
them?
bourbon, or like one time I posted my favorite actually about 2 months ago. I posted a picture of a soft pretzel and a beer on my Getter account, and somebody's like, why do you flaunt your wealth? And I'm like, what is a soft pretzel and a beer? Like, I mean, it was a very expensive soft pretzel, by the way. They probably knew where I was. But like, it was like a $22 soft pretzel, but whatever.
That's aged Gouda in that beer cheese.
Oh my God. Yeah. It was like they had all the house-made dips and stuff on it. It was amazing. But no, like look, I'm just never going to make anybody happy. Like that's the whole thing with the internet, is miserable people are there to comment on miserable things. And I think people also think I'm very angry all the time with stuff too. And like, I'm not. I actually have to fake getting angry. When I used to have employees, I had to fake getting angry when people screwed up, because I just don't get angry. Life is good. And like, I don't worry about it. But like, I mean, look, lefties, there's this whole concept just on the internet in general. There's this concept that like people feel the need to yell at you instead of just walking away. Like, I don't care. If I see something I don't like, I don't engage with it. And luckily for me, people aren't like me. And so they engage with my stuff when they hate me. And it's made a hell of a career. But, no, I will knock conservatives. I knocked Myra Flores. She voted for the NDAA that had amnesty in it. She unfollowed me on Twitter because she can't handle criticism. And I'm actually speaking at an event that she's at coming up. I'm the keynote at an event she's at coming up, and you best believe I'm going to drop at least one joke about that. But it's just, I think it's miserable people that want you to be as miserable as them, and they can't stand that either I have a platform, or they don't like my opinion, or they don't like how I look. Like today, I was on Instagram and somebody like had taken one of my posts and said something like, I don't know what the fuck. Just they were real like negative to one of my posts. And they were like, man, I can't stand this guy. I wish he'd go away. And I responded and I was like, me too. And like, I don't.
Well, this is what, all right. So well, for one, you've always been this way. This is how I remember you anyway.
Yeah.
And what's funny is coming with all of kind of the Trump movement that came through, all of a sudden it's as if people are like, well, you're not. It's almost like, well, you're not hardcore enough. You're not conservative enough. Like, I was never a conservative, but I was never a Democrat either. I was always independent minded. I didn't like the parties. I was never a fan of any of it. The only thing that even brought me around to the conservative way of thinking, honestly, was when Ron Paul ran. I was huge on the libertarian message. Let me do me.
And now that's
alone.
looped in. That's looped in with conservatism because the left has gone so far crazy on the left.
Oh yeah,
like
100%.
It's like this, and then all of this now is. I've always been me, like the Trump thing. Like, so when people got on him for being mouthy and stuff on Twitter, and I'm like, I can't judge that. That's what I do. Right. The same thing. I don't judge people for their lifestyles. I just don't. That includes like Trump, who for the longest time lived a Playboy lifestyle. Why not? He's a billionaire. He bought the Miss World pageant so he could bang models. Great. Like, if you're not like, we have this concept that has basically been falsified, that we believe in this country that our presidents are somehow moral people. Yeah. When like you find out later on, like JFK used to say, like, if he doesn't have sex with a different woman every 3 days, he gets a headache. Right. I mean,
his father raised him that way. Him and Bobby.
Right. So like, you look at that kind of stuff, and you look at like, all the deviancies and things that have happened in our politics. And for some reason, they're pretending that Trump is somehow different. And it's like, he's not. Well, actually, he probably respected the Oval Office more than many people did.
Well, and to take it even farther, I feel like any person that's almost any person that's ever done anything great really normally ain't a moral person.
Yeah.
When you truly think of it, I mean, Gandhi beat his wife for the principle of it.
Yeah.
But he's leading the peace movement.
Well, my thing too, right? By the way, and a bit that I'm working on, and I need to figure it out. Like I've dropped it to a couple of groups, and I like to watch people get horrified when I say this. Like everybody got really upset about like Trump doing the grab her by the pussy thing, which obviously was him just trying to brag to like Billy Bush. He's like an old man trying to, brag to Billy Bush that he's cool, right? And he could get away with this stuff. I want to know if it worked. Has anybody ever asked, hey, did it work? I know you said it, but like, because look, the guy was literally like and I don't doubt it, by the way, but like he was a Playboy. He was on the cover of Playboy as the Playboy in 1990. Right. I have a copy of it in my like spirit. It's one of my collector's items. I want to get him to sign it one day. I wonder if he'll sign it. He'll sign anything. But I just like, I look at it and I'm like, guys, like you can't. I don't understand why people think they can judge other people's morality. And most of the people who do judge, you're right. You're onto something. You're right. I mean, the people who judge other people's morality, people who are very front facing with that kind of stuff, people who beat their Bibles publicly in front of other people, like kind of Pharisees, if you guys are biblical people.
No, I mean that's actually the perfect way to actually say it. The very legalistic types, to where if they even wanted to follow the teachings of Christ to begin with, it's not their place to be running around doing that.
But fun thing, like through law school, I was trained as a public defender in Baltimore City, and I got to do some internship stuff and deal with lots of things, and all the things I've learned throughout the years. They're always the worst people. They're always the worst people. They're always the deviants. The people who are the ones that pretend to be the most moral in public and are the most judgy and the most open about that stuff are always the worst people. And so the conservatives that knock by drinking or something like that, like I had somebody slide in my DMs on Getter, and and give me a lecture about being an alcoholic because her family were alcoholics or something. And I had lots of choice words. And I was like, just because your family sucks doesn't mean that everybody sucks.
Oh my gosh.
And I think that's what it comes down to. I think these judgy people, honestly, are the ones with the real problems. And they're hoping that to feel better about themselves by judging you. But ultimately, I think that they are the bad people. And like, I'm not going to judge. I could care less. That's the thing. Like, I don't know. There's no value to me in judging someone's lifestyle or who they're dating or whatever. Miss
I
Lee
had to
looks
put
like
this
a woman in
comment.
a painting from hundreds of years ago. Would be one of the first mentions of cloning. Is that what you get? Would you get like what's the creepiest shit you got as a Toledo?
Oh my god.
Oh, a
Toledo
van
sucks,
parked
by
in
the
the
way.
parking lot
Toledo-
ready to kidnap her is probably the
that
in my ranking of depressing towns in America, it's up there. Like Orlando, Toledo's up there. Morgantown, West Virginia. Oh, God.
Toledo would be so offended if he said that. Let me tell you.
Well, John Denver did that song. There's nothing to do in Toledo on a Saturday night.
But did they even know about the Toledo Zoo? It's been rated #1 for the Toledo Zoo.
All right, so this has been a thing since all right, so I lived there for 10 years. I got very involved, no different than I was when I was in Baltimore and in Dundalk, right?
Yeah.
And every year, the Toledo Zoo goes and gets all of the news, which Christy was a part of that, the newspapers, all of that, to participate in the USA Today poll for best zoo in America.
They stack it.
Oh, 100%. And all of it, and then they turn around every election and say, now remember to vote for the Toledo Zoo levy. Because we're the #1 zoo in the United States. And I'm like, I've never
breeds of house cats at the Toledo Zoo.
Actually, that was the story, all the feral cats.
No way.
Biting the elephants. The feral cats are attacking the Toledo Zoo, but they do it every year. And I'm like, I haven't met a damn person that's coming to this town to go to the zoo.
Okay, but
I'm sure it's great.
Don't take this. Don't be offended by this because this isn't meant to be offensive. Gotcha. But you ended up with the hottest woman in Toledo, right? Like she's the only attractive woman in Toledo and was probably voted as such. And like, were you like in like Toledo magazine? Did they ever do they have like a Toledo, like a Baltimore magazine where like they have like the best top singles?
Well, they have like best of Toledo and things like that. I have an award for celebrity you'd most like to go to dinner with for whatever that counts.
Yeah, we went to dinner.
That meant hottest person in Toledo. By the way, that's exactly what that means.
I thought it meant that I'm just a delight to talk to, Tim.
Well, but like it's. Your kids are annoyed. All the guys are stopping you at the grocery store trying to get. Were they taking?
I didn't say there were guys stopping me at the grocery store.
It doesn't matter. Both sides. You got both sides. You got all the secret gay women in town too. They were all just trying to get with you. You were a painting. You're like an old painting that was cloned.
No, it said I prove clones exist or something. Yeah. I don't know where that comment went.
That's the problem. See, she didn't know what Dundalk was. That's what worked for me. I'm like, I'm heading out to Toledo. It's going to be great.
Dundalk. We were like,
you know what though? Toledo does remind me of Baltimore County in many ways.
Hey,
West Andes.
Hey, Tim,
many ways.
Just so you know, Hank Sellers says it's a pretty great zoo, to be fair. Okay.
Who's judging a zoo? If you have animals at the zoo and they're alive, it's a decent zoo. Like, I don't care. Like, when's the last time an adult has gone to a zoo by themselves?
Yeah, it's like, look, it's their own self-fulfilling prophecy. And I'm not saying that it's not, okay, cool zoo, but you're not the #1 zoo in the country. People aren't coming from all over the United States to come to Toledo, Ohio. And meanwhile, they passed that damn tax levy. They can't afford to fix the damn roads, Tim. But they will fund that damn zoo every year because it's the best zoo in America.
Because of the stacked deck voting. I just did the dirtiest thing that was amazing for a friend's birthday. I gave her, I have the bourbon podcast. It's called Let's Drink Bourbon. And I wanted to do something for her.
Really creative name.
Hey, look, I have all the URLs for it. So that's why it's there. Like the fact that all that was available, I like snatched it up.
Yeah.
So I got the logo together and I made a plaque for my friend who is a GM of a bar. And I said that she had the best, and I wrote a really nice letter to go with it, the best old fashioned in the Texas region, which included Oklahoma and New Mexico. And she freaked out. She thought it was amazing. And she goes, do you think people will realize how phony this is? It was like every award is phony. And so like her foot traffic has actually increased since they've announced it on social media and like all this other stuff. I'm like, why not? Like, what awards are fake, right?
Yeah.
They're just fake. So like, if you want to go drop the $90 for a plaque and write
Yeah.
a nice letter that goes with it, you can give anybody any award.
Tim, I got an award for from the state of Maryland Department of Education for promoting diversity amongst the Black community in schools. And
What?
all it was some crazy thing that had happened between white and Black students at Dundalk Community College, at CCBC Dundalk. They ended up giving me this award, marched me over at Martin's West, and gave me this thing in a whole room full of Black people, and had my white ass walk up on stage. And they're like, I had no clue they even wanted me to say anything. I'm like, look, y'all just keep up the good work. And that forever, which my stepfather, my father, well, I consider my father, he raised me up. He retired with the State Department of Education. So me and him had the biggest laugh. He's like, so wait a minute, she got up there and gave you this award? I'm like, yeah.
I had, dude, one of my ex-girlfriends was a reporter at Fox 45 in Baltimore, and she had 21 Emmys. And local Emmys are a fucking scam. She's on the committee for them. And like literally, like her friends would vote, give her one a year, give her 2 or 3, 4. Like she'd submit all of her stories for like $25 a piece and walk out with like armfuls of trophies. And she had 21.
I had to give myself that one, Christy.
I see. I was
all
like, I
those
don't get
creepy
it.
ass dudes. I need one.
No,
everyone
I
loves
didn't.
Tim. Everyone loves
Thank you,
Christy. I just
Bruce.
needed one to pump my own ego for a minute.
Nobody loves me. Like I'm so like, it's so weird. Like the hate that you get online, and like I've had people write me like 3-page emails like that I like too long didn't read, right? Like crazy shit that people like. I mean, I started carrying a gun when I came to Texas because of like all the death threats, and there's cameras all around my place. Not that anybody would find me, but like it's so crazy, like the emotional response that you get for just being there. It's weird. Like, and I'm not a good looking guy. I'm okay, but like, you know, like girls get it worse, right, Christy? So like, I mean, like you in Toledo had to be like ridiculous. Did you ever?
That's kinda wild.
I got plenty of pictures I would have rather not seen.
Oh,
for sure.
oh,
Like and see, John knows this about me. Like I always was very grateful for getting like my dream job, you know? And so I was like, my biggest fear was anyone ever being able to say like, oh, she thinks she's too good, or you know, she whatever. And so I was always almost overly nice to people, and I tried like crazy to respond to every message, and
too nice.
that's long since been gone. I can't keep it up now, but because of that, I would open like every message and be like, oh shit, I did not want to see that.
Well, so
she'd be like, John, look at this. I'm like, no, absolutely not.
there's a guy, well, there's multiple guys in DC that screen grab like photos of the girls every like live feed and then and post it up and like tweet at them, and they're like, you look so beautiful today and whatever. And I'm like, so the first couple of weeks I was working at Fox 5 when we were still in the studio, before COVID and stuff, I was like, this is one of you guys, right? This is one of the producers or something doing this for like you to have headshots and stuff. They're like, no, that's a dude that like sits at home and watches us 24 hours a day and takes, and like, that is so weird to me. Like that you're taking pictures. I mean, at the end of the day, you're a newsreader, right? I mean, like, God bless you for getting the job that you want. But like,
I wrote a lot of that stuff.
oh yeah, well, you had to do more. Yeah, like there's in larger markets, they have more producers doing more things. Like you probably walk into your newsroom and you have like 5 people. But like it was just so weird to see people screen grab. You know, the girls will be like, you look so beautiful today and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, guys, like at least get to know that they're idiots first. But and then on the social media thing. So there's a woman there who has been like basically tanked from every other sheet. And I used to say awful stuff on air about people kind of like under my breath, like kind of like, or like in a way that like was like an inside joke that everyone on staff except for them would get it. And like one in particular, I used to promote her podcast all the time because she had been through every other channel in town and had scammed the director of Fox, she's still there, by the way. If he sees this, whatever, fuck you guys, you fired me. But like she had a podcast, and she's still there with this podcast, that she like turned off all the likes and stuff on YouTube and made it look like, and it was very clear that she was paying for like the 10,000 views on each one of the posts because she never grew, or she never got any new subscribers. like, and to this day still has no subscribers, like no likes, no comments, no nothing on any of her like big podcasts. And so she sold this off. So every time they would ask me to promote something on air, I would say, go tune in. I really love this podcast I've been listening to. And I'd always plug her podcast. And it became a thing to the point that like she didn't get it. She thought I was just being nice. I think she finally caught on. But it became a thing to the point that like every camera person would like burst into, like they would set it up in particular for me to hit that beat every time I was on TV, like 3 or 4 times on a Friday. So, and I'd find new ways to work it in. It was amazing. And I'd talk about like her guests of the week and stuff like that without watching it. It was really great. And then one time her like producer was on like, there's a show that I do called Like It or Not, which I used to call We Can't Afford the Syndication Rights for Jeopardy. And so I used to do the show and they just sit people out. And for some reason they bring me on, I'm a political commentator, and they're like, the whole show is like, Beyonce has a new album. What do you think about it? And I'm like, fuck off. Like, I don't care. Like, Beyonce has a new album. Or like, Lizzo looks beautiful today. What are you thinking? I'm like, she's fat. And they're like, oh my God. But like her producer was on there once and she goes, you know, you plug the show so much. Thank you so much. We should bring you on. I go, nah. It was just a good, but my favorite on that one. So you know how everybody like pretends to be fake on that kind of stuff. Thanks for asking. I've totally hijacked the show. There's a panel of like, it's like 4 people and they're all just these like dumb, fake fucking reporters. Right. And they bring in one dumb, fake fucking guest every time, except for me. I'd come in on Fridays and I'd just say whatever I want. And I think even the executives at the channel thought it was hilarious. Or else they would have kicked me off of that show. But there was one time in particular, we were talking about moms. It was like Mother's Day or something. And it was 3 women and me. And it was like the fakest, you know, the one with the podcast and 2 other ones. And they're like, yeah, my mom watches everything, blah, blah, blah. And my mom watches everything. You know, it's all these warm fuzzies. And I go, my mom doesn't watch anything that I do. And they're like, why? And I go, she's dead. And my earpiece comes on so that I can intentionally hear everyone in the control room howling. they turn it on and they're like, dude, that was the greatest thing.
I was laughing today because I clicked before we come on. I clicked on your website real quick, and then it had this quote that I found funny. It was like, Tim was one of the most brilliant political minds of our generation. He's also very attractive. Your mom.
Yeah. My website sucks, by the way. I don't know what that background color
I know, but still, that's great. Either way, I liked it.
Now, I just like, I literally, I've gotten lots of compliments from lots of people and I've advised lots of people and I never talk about it. And then all of a sudden, like I have a very Forrest Gumpy career, right? So I've gotten to do really cool shit and perform for really cool people and perform with really cool people. And I just don't talk about it. And I don't think people realize like ultimately, like, you know, when they like try to insult me or whatever, I'm like, sure, whatever. It's just really funny to watch people online be like, again, back to that comment, like you're a failed comedian. And I just kind of laugh at it. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Like, it's like when people try insult me and are like, well, you don't work in news anymore. I'm like, yeah, that's the point. Cause it's such a farce.
You make more. I mean, I still get emails once in a while from people who are like, you never did open mics and you blah, 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 and this and that. I'm like, yeah, but then I got TV and radio deals. Like when you like, everybody's got a different path. That's one of the things I learned very early on is everybody has a different path. And like, you can't look at anybody else's path to success. Like, dude, Chrissy, I bet you're much more happy now and probably much more successful now than you ever have been. And
I mean, it's a lot more work. I'm not going to lie about that. I mean, gosh, I'm doing like all these things I never had to do before, like trying to figure out technical things and marketing. Like what? I mean, I never had to do any of that before, but like you said, I mean, it's way more fulfilling. I can feel much better about what I'm doing.
In a year, you've been able to grow like tenfold of what you went from local news markets. I mean, it is. I think there's that liberating aspect of it. Not to mention to get down here to Texas and be free.
The Sonic pickle reviews you've been doing have been.
I mean, if Sonic could come back with the pickle slush, I mean, gosh, it was short-lived. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, you know, like I mean, it's just, it's so. People are. I don't think they have a concept of it, because I mean, like again, most of the people who comment that hate us are at best baristas at like an independent coffee shop, right?
Right.
So like, I'm not pressed about it. Like it's not a
Well, it does really hurt my feelings when I get DMs of just barfing face emojis or, clown emojis. I mean, that just like really hits me.
That's
Right?
all you get?
Of course,
all
I'm
you
being
get?
sarcastic.
Oh,
But like when I get stuff like that, I'm like, really?
yeah.
Tim, how did you end up down here in Texas?
Yes. Thank you for asking that.
I came down here to to be the editorial director for a digital marketing firm in 2010.
Okay.
Then I went back to DC, back and forth between here and DC. Never gave up my Texas citizenship in 2015 to run CPAC's digital marketing and marketing in general and creative. And then I ended up in DC. I wanted to go hard at getting my own show and doing my own thing. And so I started when Facebook Live first started in like 2017. I got a deal with a big conservative group to like do my little show for them, my little stupid kind of like the Soup type show. And then I did it for the Daily Caller and the Washington Examiner. Kept making more money each step. And then got the deal with local Fox from there and whatever else. So then I ended up back here because in 2020 I traveled the country. I had a place in DC and here, and I traveled.
Sorry, do you want me to go check that out?
No, it's my Amazon package.
Oh, I was like, I'm sorry.
It's just now they do subcontractors, so you never know who the hell's rolling up to your house. It
now
could be
I'm-
old dirty
no, but
bastard
this
for
is-
all you know.
Tim might understand. I am super paranoid now because of I don't know if you know this, Tim, but I frequently guest host on InfoWars and stuff, and so now I get it. Like,
I'll get.
I get why people are like paranoid because I'm like, who's following me?
Oh yeah,
Who's about to kill me?
yeah.
I've got the document.
No, you're fine.
No, I'm so sorry, Tim. I'm so
No.
sorry, but we're
No.
in my studio, which is in the.
I mean,
front
I
hall.
ran out to the bathroom in the first 20 minutes I was here because I've got a Thai chili thing.
No, but so what was happening is you were talking and I was hearing loud voices of
Oh.
another language right at our door. And I was like, what is happening? Who's here to kill me right now? It's just
You got your wires. You got your wires.
okay. I'm so sorry. Let's
No.
go back.
No,
No.
go ahead.
No, so I traveled the country during 2020. I did 35 states and 80 cities. I covered the effect of COVID on small business for Washington Times, and this was my favorite little town. Was Grapevine, and it's a fake tourist town, and there's like 15 wineries on Main Street. I live right off of Main Street, and I moved here without a car intentionally so that I could have a small town feel, and I wanted to feel like part of a community. I was part of a city in DC and spent a lot of time in New York and LA, and I figured this was like the best way to feel like I'm part of a small town, and I really am. Like I love this town, and I'm a townie now. And if you want to see me, I'm sort of like I really envied.
Down the grapevine.
Yeah, I envied and got to meet years ago Dave Chappelle in Yellow Springs, and I envied that lifestyle. He's successful enough that he lives in a tiny town that's in the middle of nowhere. And I am emulating his life.
Dayton?
No, he's in Yellow Springs. It's that little like kind of little liberal college town down in Ohio.
Is it just outside of Dayton?
30 minutes. Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. And the sign to get into Yellow Springs just says Springs, and it's painted yellow because it's ironic. But no, that's like I emulated that lifestyle. I love how he he goes and does what he needs to do, and I do the same. And then you come back home to a tiny place where like nobody's ever going to come find you. And I go down to literally the VFW is like 3 blocks from where I live, and I go to the VFW and I hang out with all the old guys and smoke my cigar and buy around for everybody. And it's just like,
Oh, I love that.
yeah, well, there's nobody here that I can date, I'll tell you that. But like I'm the youngest citizen of Grapevine by like 30 years. But I'm not a failed comedian with that tasty bar stuff. So by the way, so I found this out, by the way, speaking about that K Paul Boyev. I guess I'm saying that right. I had a banker. I wanted to know what I should insure this stuff for. And he said, how much? He said, take a guess. And I said, 50. And he's like, try again. And I was like, and we kept going. And he valued my collection at about $500,000.
That's awesome.
That's
That's
crazy.
On top of the more that I use it as a set and the bigger that.
Well, you got a nice. Is that a bunch of Wellers up top?
Yeah.
Above your head? Yeah, man. Wellers is good stuff.
I mean, so the only one that like I have that's kind of janky is I got this from my favorite steakhouse, and I kept the wrap on it. They let me take it home. That's CYPB.
Oh, wow.
That's the janky one that I have. All the other ones, I have a ton of antique. That's the one thing that you guys get by being in Ohio, is you can find this regularly, and you can't find it anywhere else.
Look, I had that and the green label consistently at the bar that I was running.
Yeah.
because I had a nice relationship with the liquor reps, so they would always call me like, "Look, we got this in, come get it." And I'm
I
like,
have
"Cool, I'll be there."
16 bottles of this now, just in case. But I'm also not drinking for like probably 4 months. I need to lose about 30 pounds. So like, I'm so excited to dig back into that. But then I got all the antique collection. These are bottles I've killed from places. So I got William LaRue Eagle Rare. I got to walk out with this Handy and George Stagg. But like I've gotten everything.
Stagg's good too.
Yeah.
Pretty. You know what? Pretty much anything coming out of Sazerac is pretty damn.
Yeah,
good,
and it's done on purpose, right? Like they've allocated the stuff on purpose. Here's like Rock Hill.
But you know what?
Huh?
Nobody draws that connection to Southern Comfort with it all, do they?
No. And you know what the number one Sazerac Buffalo Trace product is, right? And I got like all the Blantons down here too.
Yeah.
It's Fireball.
Really?
Really? I love Fireball.
I didn't know Fireball was connected with them.
Fireball.
So Buffalo, everything added up together. Eagle Rare, Buffalo Trace, all the Wellers, Blanton, all the stuff they make. Fireball outsells all of those products combined every year.
Oh yeah, I believe it. I believe it. People do love Fireball.
That's where their
I
money
love
comes
Fireball.
from.
Now that Screwball's not bad. That peanut butter whiskey.
Oh, that was really good.
Don't get me started. Sugar and whiskey is disgusting.
You don't like Screwball?
No, God.
I love
Sugar
it.
and whiskey is disgusting.
It's so good.
That with a little Chambord, a little PBJ going.
God, that's so gross.
Oh my gosh.
I'm still mezcal's still always been my go. It's been my go-to, man. I still like bourbon, but if I was to pick anything, it would be mezcal's.
If you want to fuck around, this stuff is the stuff that's really good to get right now, and it's super cheap. So Benchmarks have come out with 5 different types.
Okay.
Small batch, single barrel, foolproof, top floor, and bonded. And they're like $13 to $20 a piece, and they're amazing.
Are you into the Jeffersons at all?
I'm getting there.
I
So,
liked they have Jeffersons had
Got that guy.
Ooh, look.
what?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, but it seems
Well, no,
important.
Jefferson's had the sea cast, the one that they put on barrels, put on a ship, and then they
that's
went and
the
brought
gimmick.
it around.
And you
You
know
know
who
what I'm
stole that
talking
gimmick? What I think is really interesting? This is Brad Paisley's new juice, American Highway.
Okay.
So they put it on a semi and drive it around, follow him around to every one of his concerts.
That's great.
And age
This
it there.
bottle has been to every one of his live shows.
Yep. And like 40, I think this has been to the lower 48.
Do you got that what is it, the Long Branch? What's McConaughey's?
Yeah, I have a bottle of that somewhere. That's Wild
You
Turkey.
got the Aviator gin. You know?
No, I don't do gin.
Ryan.
But this is a cool one that's going to come out on our
That's
show.
Ryan Reynolds.
This is only 4 people have the. Well, there's only 4 bottles of this. So Jay Mattingly that has and Bourbon 30, they're kind of everywhere now. They're coming up. They're out of Georgetown, Kentucky. Let me see if I can get this zoomed in. So Angel's Envy founder Wes Henderson and I did our own blend there, and there's only 4 bottles of this. And we were sitting around at lunch after we taped a special of that for our bourbon show, and we're sitting around at lunch, and I hand him the bottle, and like he's finally catching on to secondary market on stuff. Like he doesn't follow this stuff that much, and he goes, "What do you think this is worth?" And I'm like, $5,000. Easy.
That's wild.
Because like it's
Wow.
literally the only combo of him and a different distillery right now. He's working on some other projects, but
You into Rise at all?
Anyone know
Yeah.
why sulfates are
I,
in
um,
alcohol?
no, because they make them delicious. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know either. Sorry.
I mean, Angel's Envy Rye, of course, is one, and then I've got
Yeah, Angel's Envy Rye is good.
this guy. If you can find it, it's a Heaven Hill product. It's the favorite. I was told it was the favorite product of the current master distiller.
Wait, is that Pikesville Rye?
Yep.
Is that based off the old? Because I mean, there was a Pikesville Rye in Maryland.
No, maybe, but I don't know if it's this is. I'd have to dig into it, but I think there's something about the transportation in Kentucky with this. So this is a
Okay.
Heaven Hill. So Heaven Hill does Rittenhouse, and they do this. I would always lean with this if you can find this.
Okay.
And I've also got, of course, like Peerless. I've got back here.
This ended up becoming a drinking
No,
show.
Amir would love this. I'd
Real
be like,
quick.
Amir, you need to watch this and hook up some of these bottles up in the bar.
I've got the Old Forester barrel proof rye, which is apparently hard to find, but I grabbed a bottle.
You know what I always wanted was a bottle, because you know they redid, what was it, Washington's Distillery at Mount Vernon?
It's not good.
It isn't?
No.
All right.
Well,
You're
no,
welcome.
And it's decided.
It's not good.
I
It's
always
weak.
wondered. I'm like, I wonder if they did justice by it or not. Okay.
There's stuff that tastes like juice, and then there's stuff that has like flavor, right? And so
Right.
like the Washington stuff, it was very it was young. It was young juice, and it really didn't do much for me. This one is crazy, and it's very expensive right now. We can change. We can talk about other things, by the way. Go ahead and change the subject.
No, it's fine.
This is Peyton Manning stuff,
Really?
and they're
He's got a bourbon
charging.
too?
Huh?
He's got a bourbon too, huh?
Yeah. This is 13 year weeded, and it's fantastic. But it's $200 a bottle, and
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's you.
all right, we can change the subject though, because I can talk
All
about
right,
bourbon.
so
No, it's fine.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there any person? Oh, I mean, I feel like you're obviously, just your own person, unapologetic. But is there anybody that you trying to think of the right way to say it? Look up to,
No.
follow, especially.
Besides Cardi B or whatnot.
Now, let me tell you, the more that you get involved in politics, the more you realize these people were just stupid, and like members of
So
Congress.
there's no podcast that you listen to that's like a must listen for you or anything like that.
I consume so little because I actually just read the news sites constantly. There's nothing that has stopped me in my tracks.
Right.
I've seen clips, I've seen clips of Rogan that are really good. I've seen clips of Tim Dillon that are really good.
Tim Dillon's funny.
Tim Dillon is like the gay friend, like
Yeah.
the mouthy Northeast gay friend that will just tell you whatever. And like, you don't want to, when you go to dinner with the guy, you're just going to let him pick because he's not going to go anywhere.
I was just watching a clip before we went on with him, and he was making fun of the white women that are moving down to Mexico to be
saw
life
that too.
coaches. It's so damn
Oh
funny.
my goodness.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
But like I can't stand listening to other people. I know that sounds so fucking stupid, but like at some point you hear enough of it, and you've been in media for so long. I mean, Christy, you were in news long
For
enough.
17 years and
It's sort of like, do you want to listen to other news shows?
Well, I
No.
mean, I kind of have to now because I mean
Yeah.
that's my thing is like news analysis, like telling people why it's all BS now at this
But you
point.
don't have like a favorite, do you? Do you have a favorite?
I listen to hours of podcasts a day, and I do have like ones that I go back to just because that I feel like
You're a
give me-
Cheryl Atkinson fan. I would
Yeah,
say
I
like
like
if you had your
Cheryl.
fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she's somebody that I feel like it is. I almost said OG, but I almost feel like that's like insulting, but I don't mean it to be insulting. But let me ask you this: so, you can be as honest as you want. How do you
I
feel
wasn't going to
about?
be until then.
Well, you're always going to be honest, but
No.
what are your thoughts? Because it's kind of topical right now with Alex's War, the documentary coming out. What are your opinions on InfoWars and Alex and all of that? And do you plan on watching the documentary?
No. I'm not.
No.
I used to write copy for a competitor of his in Austin for like survival
Really?
stuff. Yeah. Digital marketer. And they used to have a bunch of survival stuff and whatever. I used to write all the copy for that stuff. So that's like a thing. He's entertaining. And that's kind of where I am on it. He serves his purpose. He's got a great audience. He's been right about a lot of stuff in the long run.
So really, you're just down. So you really, that's nice though. So you're living down there in a small town in Texas and just trying to be chill and do whatever you feel like you want to do.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
nice, man.
I mean, this thing, like, so I've been invited on. So people have invited me. Here's my opinion on. I've been invited on InfoWars, and I'm like, nah. I think I can do more damage mainstream wise. I was young member of the I was the young member chair of the National Press Club, and I represented all media under 35 for a couple of years. And I'm still pretty respected by a lot of folks at NBC and CBS and stuff like that. And I am, as much as I'm friendly with everyone, and I am absolutely friendly with everybody who works for like organizations like InfoWars and stuff like that, I will probably never appear on there just because I think that I can do more damage in the mainstream in the long run if I don't.
So I feel like you're saying that if you feel like if you appeared on there that you wouldn't like that would ruin your mainstream impact.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's honestly, like, I mean, I don't take issues with, I mean, it's with anything they do there. I could care less. Like, honestly, it's all entertainment. I see no difference. If there's anything that people say that is said crazy on Alex Jones's show, like, I'm sure on the equivalent from Joy Reid, she said worse. Right.
No, that's the truth.
And she's been given a platform by NBC and Comcast that makes no sense. And she has tried to be more divisive and has literally made up lies and tried to basically start a race war. Right.
Yeah.
And so I can't, like, I have issue with that. And it's way worse, like on the grand scheme of things, incredibly much worse than anything that Alex Jones has ever done.
They don't have any ground to stand on anymore. I think the news is going so bonkers.
Yes.
Specifically, and why don't I say it this? Cable news, but now you might as well write, wrap in the Washington Post, the New York Times, things of that nature. It's all gone nuts. The
Yeah.
things that I hear daily from any of these institutions that you would think used to be, I can't
credible.
even think of the, well, yeah. I mean,
They're not.
you used to be able to respect these institutions. You
Yeah.
can't. There's nothing to respect about these institutions anymore. And it's fun to see them even it's as you said, when you go and you throw Alex into the mix, it's like, yeah, you really
Ultimately,
can't say
so
shit, man.
here's my judge is like, I judge character of people, right? And I've never heard anything bad about Alex Jones personally. I have heard incredibly awful things about people in mainstream and people on other channels. And there have been evidence of incredibly awful things from people personally, from other things. And Alex Jones doesn't pretend to be something that he's not,
Right.
where I think everyone else does. And I think so that's the difference. So in a way, I have a lot more respect for the guy for just being Alex Jones and not putting on
Right.
an air than most of these like
And Matt
legitimate.
Lauer with a push button lock.
Man, let me tell you something. I just had a conversation the other day. I had a guy on the Jeremy from the Quartering, who is a genuinely good guy.
I like him.
Genuinely good guy. He was going to, it's not my story to tell. But I just, how do I get around the story now that I've started the ball rolling? I just know that he's made decisions because he was as shocked as I was early on, but recently. And you realize, like, again, like I appreciate people who are authentic to themselves and say what they are and don't pretend to be something they're not. And so to that level, I have a lot more respect for Alex Jones than I do most conservative media.
Well, let me tell you this.
I'm right there with you.
Let me tell you this. I was aware of like who he was, and some of my family members followed him, but I was doing my mainstream local news girl thing, so I didn't really know that much about him other than the labels of like conspiracy theorist, So I mean, life takes you in weird paths, right? And so when I left traditional news, somehow I found myself there at that studio, and we worked out a situation, and when he was asking like, well, what do you want to do, like and I ultimately like, what is your goal? And I'm like, I just want to do news the right way, and I got to tell you, like, I don't think that you and I would agree on everything. And he's like, I'm not asking you to be me, and so my experience in being a contributor has been a very good one, and I feel like I've gotten to see sides that most people don't know, as far as just about how generous and kind this man is. And just the fact that like he didn't, he doesn't, this is something I say all the time at news. There were boundaries. There were things that I could talk about and couldn't talk about. There were people I could and couldn't talk to. With him, he's never said you can or can't talk to this person. He's never said you have to talk about this or you have to have this view. Never. Like, I've just been given free reign. And actually that was like shockingly uncomfortable at first, because I'm like, wait, what? You mean I can do anything I want?
Yeah, whatever the hell I want to do.
Like, what? You're just gonna let me just go? What? So I mean, that's my perspective to share.
He also clearly has an eye for business and branding. Candace Owens got her start there, and people don't know that. She probably would never admit that.
You don't think she'd admit that now?
I don't. It'll be a real interesting conversation. I'd love to see it. If you ever get her in a room, be like, you ever remember what was it like being in it for, and just see what she and because she was a regular guest, wasn't she, back in the day? I remember.
Yeah, she most certainly was.
It's very interesting. Like, I think it's one of those things. I just think that she would probably run from it. I don't like her.
Look, don't get me started. Me and you could go. Me and you could go. No, because I'm of the same opinion. I think certain people like that served a purpose, but I feel like it gets to a point for me where it's legitimately a broken record.
So,
I don't want to hear it anymore.
Also, look, we're both Baltimore, right?
Yeah.
And so when there's a police shooting, my opinion on police shootings, she's the first. She like cannot get out fast enough to blame the black guy every time there's a police shooting.
Right.
Like, I feel like there's like a rush to like whatever to. For me, when there's a police shooting of a black guy that's like in mainstream news, because I grew up in Baltimore and I was trained as a public defender in law school in Baltimore, I'm like, the cop is probably the problem. Like that's my instant.
See, this is something this is a cultural difference as well for me moving to Ohio, is that, police were actually really nice.
Oh,
and when I was living over there, and what they would have called in Toledo, where I lived in Toledo, they considered that the hood. And I got pulled over a few times when I first moved over there, but I'm like, guys, look, you can run my license. I own these properties over here. I'm not buying drugs. I get the whole routine, whatever else. But I would tell people, I'm like, you have no idea what crazy police officers are, because it's not that way back home. Baltimore was nuts.
yeah.
I had way too many negative interactions to where I would have, that opinion. I had that opinion about police officers because of Baltimore City.
Yep. It's a total difference. And I'm sure it's the same in Chicago. Like those major Democrat run cities where like the police have been corrupt for years.
Yeah.
Decades
on decades.
Yeah. Yeah. And probably Philadelphia too. Like but it's just one of those things. Like when you see enough evidence of it, you're like, oh, cops are dirty. And as a conservative, when I say that, conservative people are like, you're a liberal, you're a socialist. Yeah. I'm like, nah.
I think the tide is turning there, Tim, because I've had some awful interactions with police, even here in Texas, just for trying to hold those in the school boards accountable and the school districts accountable for having pornography in the school libraries. You should have seen the way these cops treated me. I got a ticket at the Austin ISD for talking and showing.
Christy's banned from all Austin ISD.
For showing one of the books that they have in school libraries.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I written a ticket. It's the story's still up on my band page, but because I was showing what they were teaching for the elementary school children during their Pride Week that they had, and I was just sharing that, and they called the cops on me. They showed up. They said I had to get off the property. They wrote me a ticket. It was ridiculous, and I'm like, just know you are giving me, a parent, a ticket, while allowing these people to talk about sex to these little kids and show them inappropriate pictures. I hope you feel good about yourself, So, and then the same thing with the officers at the Round Rock Independent School District. This made national news. It was on Fox.
Where they arrested the parents we were at those meetings. They were pretty wild.
Yeah, they were. All we were trying to do was get in the board meeting under Texas Penal Code. It says that we were supposed to be allowed in the meeting, and the cops were keeping us out, pushing us out. It's insane. So the tide is turning there. And now with Uvalde, I mean,
yeah, that whole thing was sketch to me anyway. Well, I don't think being from back in Baltimore, we have Baltimore County Police. We don't have all these little district police departments, right? And we sure as hell don't have like a school actual police that's its own police force. But I feel like you come down here in the Texas and certain states where they have the school police department, most people don't even get into that was a school actual police department, these Uvalde police. Yep. They make it seem like it's the actual police from it.
People don't get it.
Yeah, because I was talking to my parents. I'm like, no, they actually have school district police here. So whatever the hell happened, they didn't do something right,
Yeah. And by the way, not to like keep beating the drum, because I keep thinking about this, because I always want to have this conversation with people and I never get the opportunity. By the way, this was only supposed to be a half hour. We're on an hour 40 now.
You said you had all the time in the world. So.
I do.
Okay.
But like, so the thing is,
whenever
like,
you want, just
I'm not a Candace Owens fan. She's not a fan of mine. I'll never be on her show or whatever, her Daily Wire nonsense show, where she's like Oprah or whatever she's supposed to be. But everybody's got their role in conservative movement stuff, right? And like they've got like everybody's got like a kind of a character that's doing their own thing, and like Alex Jones has his role in this too. Like I'm just a totally different character from everybody else is their own totally different character with everything, and whether or not you like them, they appeal to a certain audience and they push ultimately what your same goal is. So I have to be very cautious with knocking people, but I just don't. You'll just see me never associate with certain people. So there goes my camera. Hold on. My battery died because I used these full-plate cameras.
Sorry.
But no, everybody's got their own. Hold on. Give me 1 second. This is what I should have done. This is when my bathroom break should have happened. So 20 minutes.
Well, that's lined for you.
Tim's about to come back on 10 pounds lighter, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to share his secret. Put in promo code Tim Young runs his mouth. Tim Young runs his mouth.
No, so you know, everybody's got their role and everybody like entertains people differently. And really, ultimately, if you're not running for office, you're just an entertainer.
Right.
And that's how it should be viewed. I always find it interesting when like USA Today wants to fact check me or whatever. And I think it's stupid. Like, why would you fact check my opinion? They've done it multiple times. The other day, I told another girl off recently, and I post the whole conversation online for them, and they never end up doing the fact check. But
I feel like they add credibility. Like, so Christy was getting, she'd had a bunch of posts, and this has been a recent thing more so with, I feel like with COVID, right? That PolitiFact would go in and specifically go make comments and fact checks in the actual post. I'm like, why are they even giving you any kind of relevance? Like, that's crazy that they would even be that
Yeah, I'm
stupid to
like,
go in
why is
there
the
and give you
PolitiFact
any credence to it.
page coming onto my page on Facebook to write in my comments? Like, what is going on? Like, this is ridiculous.
it literally makes no sense. But see, you have a big target on your back with working with InfoWars, and they want to discredit that outlet mainly because you guys have been right so much over there. I mean, ultimately, you know, it's and I think the credibility of InfoWars has gone up in the past couple of years because of the willingness to report on things like the Hunter
I think
Biden
it's in
laptop.
direct correlation to since I started contributing.
That's what it is.
honestly.
But I mean,
I'm kidding.
ultimately,
No, but let me just sell this point though. It has been a unique experience because I am still independent. I have my own independent thing, but I contribute and I can guest host there. So there have been people that have come on to the program that were hesitant to before. Like Dr. Robert Malone, he was like, "No, I'm not going to go on there." But
Yep.
he's like, "I'll go on there if you're going to be the one interviewing me." You know, and I think he's changed his outlook even now. He's like, "Okay, yeah, now I would talk to Alex." But like at the beginning, he only wanted to talk to me, and so I think that it has kind of helped soften it.
She's the honeypot of
like,
InfoWars.
no. Like I'm like the buffer or whatever. But I've noticed since I've been contributing there that there's a lot of people that maybe you wouldn't have expected to see there before. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a frequent guest on there now.
I love her, by the way.
Yeah,
she's a very nice person.
I love her too. I mean, I know in the past, like Tucker Carlson was on there.
Speaking of something, since I brought up honeypots, how I'm still always, my mind's always blown that almost every Project Veritas video, I'm like, dude, how many people do they have on Rumble, Grindr, Tinder to pull
mainly
these
Grindr.
people to work for these?
Seems like they're mainly on Grindr.
Like I can't believe that they're still getting people. I'm like, man, their honeypot game is
honeypot and honey dick and everybody.
Yeah, I like, dude, and that's really what it is, right? Because these dumb fucks show up to like hang out with them, and they'll just tell. Like, I know that. Like the whole Tim Runs His Mouth moniker came from early on. Like when I hang out with like bigger people or when I have a longer form interview, I will say a lot of nonsense. Like I'll just talk. And then people like they get disarmed and they'll tell me stuff that they won't tell other people. And this has happened many times in interviews. And so that's kind of where the Runs His Mouth thing comes from. But like it's even simpler because people are dumb and they think with their genitals. And both sides, but mainly guys are dumb as shit. And they just say whatever if there's a girl in front of them. But yeah, no, I mean,
if they're that swinging that way.
And most of them are
the men that has sex with men that
The only thing weird about Veritas, by the way, and they do good work, but like the only thing weird about Veritas is James O'Keefe's obsession with being a star of Broadway. You've caught that.
I know this.
Oh no,
he starred in like Oklahoma, and he like goes around.
I don't think that's weird at all, Tim. Because
weird as shit.
No, hold on. Let me finish.
It's weird as shit.
No, hold on. Let me finish.
That's just as bad as Rahm Emanuel being having a master's in ballet.
Every news station, and I've worked at a lot of news stations, but every news station I've worked at, we've all realized that many of us were theater kids. Like, so there's definitely a personality trait, and probably just the fact that we like to perform, you know. So I mean, I don't find that weird at all that he's a journalist and yet likes to do his Broadway stuff. Would you quit? I mean, come on.
I never watched musicals except for Sweeney Todd. I like Johnny.
I used to go see
musicals. Musicals are great.
I used to go see anytime I had to go to New York on business, I would go to TKTS and get a ticket to a musical just to like feel cultural in New York. Like and so it was interesting. But like so I've seen a bunch, but I've never been like I want to be the star of Oklahoma.
You're never like I want to see James O'Keefe in Oklahoma.
It's bad. It's weird branding. Like you got to admit it's weird branding because he's like the kingpin of like, busting up liberal media and really uncovering a lot of stuff. And then like the fact that he does Oklahoma, you're like, this is weird. This is a weird combo.
I see your point there. He's like, we're gonna uncover the truth, and then like,
I talked to somebody very close to him once, and I was like, has anybody ever like been like, yo, maybe not? And they're like, no, he just likes doing it. And I'm like, and then I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, we thought about saying something to him.
Well, as you said, everyone's
Well,
got
he
to
does the
serve their
dancing,
purpose.
too.
Someone has to serve the
He does the
purpose
whole,
of
like,
Oklahoma.
Michael Jackson
If he
dance
wants to
thing,
go
right?
big and be a Broadway, whatever the fuck in stuff that, we performed in high school, I mean, sure, cool. Do your thing. I tell dick jokes, right? I drink booze and talk about booze. Okay. That's my thing. I'm not, but also I'm not saying I'm significant to like, and I'm not saying he is either, but, well, he probably would though. I don't think I'm significant to the conservative movement. I think I'm just an entertainer on the side. I think people listen to me and I might move the needle occasionally, but I don't say my words move people or I'm influential or I, do whatever. I'm just kind of here and I say what I think and it gets people going.
Well, there is that element, and I feel like this with people with political parties as a whole, just as much as people. And don't get me wrong, I think what the left has done with this direction they've gone is totally insane. I never during the Bush years would have thought that this party 20 years, ago during the whole neocon reign of things would end up turning into what it turned into now. But I don't think they realize, conservatives realize that they look just as stupid as some type of South Park parody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, sometimes, you fit the mold. It's as you said, you don't consider yourself as a spokesperson for the conservative movement. And I guarantee you people probably watch your tweets or watch your tweets, read your tweets, whatever. And then next thing you know, you say something that they don't like, and they're like, what do you mean? You're not American? You know what I mean? And you're not down with the movement. You're not down with 45. What's going on? That's not conservative enough. And
yeah, no, in 2012, I wrote 2 books. I wrote a book on Romney and a book on Obama. It was the first election that actually the first Obama and McCain. I hated both of them too. But I wrote a book on Romney that detailed the flip-flopping of every one of his policies. And I questioned whether or not he was even Republican in the book.
Right.
And you would have thought I said, fuck Jesus.
I can't vote for Mormons anyway.
The comments that I got, I did a chapter on crazy Mormon beliefs in that book too, by the way.
I'll tell you about my temple ceremony days.
another podcast, because I know he wants to wind this down. So.
Oh, yeah. No.
Speaking of that, did we talk about that earlier though? Or you said it to me prior to us going on about that ticket, the Romney.
Oh yeah,
what were they saying?
I'm sure you. What do you think about this ticket they say is going to happen at Mitt Romney and Pence, 2024?
Are they going to have sex with each other? Like on
TV? Yes. Like I do. This is how we're going to make the next vaccine for the new monkeypox variant.
They feel like two dudes who hang out and they have a conversation about how not to catch monkeypox, and they're like, "Wait, can you show me real quick how to not to?"
Oh my gosh!
Can you just like? Can we just?
Gross.
But I just like they're like there's no way. Like Pence, no way. But by the way, what's really interesting is you notice all the Pence staffers that are like anti-Trump and like Alyssa Farah, who's on The View now, and then like his former chief, who's on CNN now, and like it's crazy.
All of it's look. The fact that liberals love Bill Kristol and anybody out of PNAC blows my mind. All those Lincoln Project monkeypox hoarders.
I used to run into Bill Kristol. That old man used to so when I worked at the Washington Examiner and we were connected
to give you monkeypox.
Yeah, oh, God, he was OG. The Lincoln Project. They're worried about that monkeypox shit.
Yeah.
But what was his terrible publication that went out of business? Bill Kristol.
All right, so it's not the Bulwark, right? Because that's
Weekly
the current
Standard.
one.
The Weekly Standard.
Okay.
So they shared the office with us. There was like a wall that divided the Examiner and the Weekly Standard, and I used to run into him all the time in the in like the snack room, and he was always at like the snack machines. He'd like shuffle in and get like cookies out of the snack machine or whatever, and then go back. He's such a weird like slug of a person. Like I can't believe that people listen to him. Like
Oh,
there are people.
my mind's look. The fact, like I said, everything is so weird for me. Liz Cheney is the hero liberal. I'm like, what do you understand what you're even saying right now?
If you met these people, your opinion would change of it. Same with like a lot of congressmen. Like I never liked Dan Crenshaw because when I met him, I thought he was stupid.
Right.
You know, I thought the first time I met Nancy Mace was at her birthday party, like just before she was elected to Congress. And she was drunk off her ass with her kids and like was just like, I'm like, what is this? And like gives off DTF vibes all over the place too, to like everyone. Like it's super right. Oh, so Christy got the right opinion. Like when I met her, so when I saw that video of her like spitting the shot into a woman's mouth and that you remember that video?
I don't remember that.
There's a video of her like spitting a shot around a table with like kind of butchy looking woman and then another couple sharing a shot.
Can I look this up? What do I look up? How do I Google this?
You like Nancy Mace shot video or something like that. It's got to be it. When I saw
Wait a minute, did they give her hell during COVID about this?
No, it was before COVID.
Okay.
But like I saw that and I'm like, what? Nancy Mace.
I know, I'm like looking it up.
Oh my Lord.
Congresswoman thought she was filming.
No. Oh, here we go. BradWarthen.com. It's like the second one down. There's a video.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I think it's on this one. There's a lot of God. There's so much. Yeah. If you go, so like the second thing, if you type in Nancy Mace shot video, it's like BradWarthen.com. It says, finally looked at this Nancy Mace video. Wish I hadn't. And you scroll down and there's a tweet.
I still don't see it. Where are you looking this up at?
I'll just text it to you.
Okay, cool.
Messages. Because everyone should suffer through this. All right, you have it. So I want you to see this because, like, when I saw this, it didn't shock me. And the thing is, like, why we hold people and we believe these people are at a higher standard than us is mind blowing to me.
No, look, I always said that. I mean, look, God love my grandmother, but she used to be like, John.
Oh my gosh.
Fox is fair and balanced. I'm like, Grandma, it says it in the beginning of the damn show, man. Like, there's too many people. I just think that it's very easy. It's very easy to be marketed to in this damn country. There's too many people to buy into half this nonsense. Is it weird?
Yes, they're all just like spitting a shot.
Get his reaction. Show him that video, please.
Okay.
Because like again, like I'm just no fan of hers, and she has argued back and forth with me on Twitter as well. Like I just Here,
I gotta rewind it. So this is her, and then she takes the shot and she spits it into the mouth of this, like you said, described very well, butchy looking person wearing a Trump
She looks
shirt.
like what, Megan Rapinoe or something without her hair dyed.
She spits it in this guy's mouth. And he looks disgusted, and then spits it into another lady's mouth.
He looks like he's a character off of King of the Hill.
My goodness.
So when we see a video like that, our minds go to a place like, where did this go?
Right.
Because our friends don't sit. I've sat around with my friends drinking many times. And I've never done that.
Yeah.
No, never.
Like there's like, so when you think of it, you're like, okay, all right, okay. But that's the thing. Like, so if I knock her, she's got a bunch of simps that would come after me or whatever.
Right.
I've ratioed her a few times online. Same with Mayra Flores has a lot of simps right now, and she again, like it's a whole conversation with her. I can't wait to be in the same place as her eventually.
Well, I just look at it as strange bedfellows. I think, look, I am happy that you were to a point to where I like seeing the fact that you have Glenn Greenwald interviewing Alex Jones that then's connected to, what I mean, all these other different people. I love that's going on, that you've literally pushed all these people down to a corner that used to just kind of be a little bit in the middle of things.
Well, that's where we are now. We don't have a choice. Independent journalism is what saves us right now. It's what's saving us like currently, right? I mean, like you look at like Dr. Malone and all these other people who get banned from Twitter for not holding up the correct opinion on COVID stuff, and I mean, what do we have left? And that's why I think like organizations like InfoWars have gotten a lot more legitimacy, and they get legitimate people like Christy coming in that want to like work with them, and honeypot people, and so like there's a lot there, right? And I think the media landscape has changed. Obviously, I mean. I don't think that anyone can call anybody a conspiracy theorist, especially from NBC Comcast, and have Rachel Maddow and especially Joy Reid on, or ABC when they have The View, where like Whoopi and Joy Behar just say whatever.
Yeah.
And
Anything.
it's
Until they talk about the Jews and it's game over.
well, I mean, there is, when they talk about people being anti-Semitic, like how much shit has Ilhan Omar and AOC gotten away with? That's like so blatantly anti-Semitic. I'm like, this is crazy. Like there's so much stuff that is so blatant, and there's such a crazy double standard. But yeah, it's insane where we are in media. And again, like, and for me, like, I think the only reason I'm elevated is literally just because I say what I think, and I'm not afraid to say it. And then people are like, oh, I want to follow that because I wish I could say that and can't, so I can hit the retweet.
Have you been pretty shielded from Twitter suspending you or anything?
I only got suspended once, and it got taken off my account because I said the big lie right after the election, after January 6th or something like that. I said the big lie is that there's not a big lie. And they suspended me for no reason, and that got taken off my account. I've never had a problem with Twitter. And I think it's because, look, it's not hard to follow the rules there. It's not hard to play by the rules there. And I'm not a journalist who should be pushing. I'm not a journalist, but I'm not a person who's going to be pushing medical information or anything else like that. And people know what my opinion is. And I ask questions rather than make statements. And there are just ways around it. So, and I'm not, there are people now, we've gotten goofy to the point that there are people who intentionally get banned from Twitter and social media platforms so that it elevates them. I think that is a gimmick now. There are people who legitimately got it, like Malone and God, who else has been banned? That's been pretty good. Can't think of any off the top of my head, but like,
Well, but we've had this conversation, like when Christie left news, it wasn't anything bold. It was more so Sinclair was laying everybody off.
Oh yeah.
And I said, go explore your options. But then, but then you've seen, as you said, there's almost that trend to it. And nothing, look, not saying any of these journalists that have went on air, and left their jobs certain ways, but
so hold on. I can knock some of them. News, You mean knock one of them? How much time we got? I'll knock one and then you can, you can
go ahead.
Well,
wait, let me say this first. What I have said is like, sure would have been great to have like a drop the mic moment, but like I'm a mom of 3 kids. I had to provide for them. I was moved across the country. And so also this is a way for me to leave a career that I did genuinely love and believe in at one point in a more classy way and just go about my way. But that's all. But I mean, that's not to say that I think there's necessarily anything wrong with it. If they could do it, then great, good for them. I'm glad they were able to go out with a bang. But go ahead, that's what I'll say about it.
Oh no, so there was the one chick who was like her big evidence with Project Veritas was that like she was like they're suppressing stories, and the video I saw was her pitching a Bitcoin story or something to her editor in Houston, and the editor or the news director in Houston, the news director was like, black people aren't interested in Bitcoin, dude. And she's like, this is they're holding me down. The news is whatever. And I'm like, and like people were like going along with the story. And I'm like, wait, that's actually a reasonable editorial decision. That's what happens in news.
Big. Everybody knows you need to go with NFTs.
Yeah. So I was waiting. So I was like waiting for her big like drop. Right. And like, they're like, she's a whistleblower because of that. And I'm like, that's not that's not a thing. I would have said the same thing to her and I think a lot of people don't understand and so there are those instances. I was just waiting for the big drop, right? When every time. And okay, so to me, and this is my overall opinion on Project Veritas. Project Veritas is like, are you guys baseball fans? John, you're a baseball fan.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a fan of the Tribe, but of course they changed their name to the Guardians, but I grew up in the Cal Ripken era in Baltimore. So.
Yeah. You remember Adam Dunn, the baseball player Adam Dunn?
Who Dunn play for?
Everybody.
Okay.
He was on the Nationals and stuff. So Adam Dunn had a batting average of about 230, right? And he either struck out or when he connected with that ball, it would like go like 700 feet. Like there was nothing in between. That's Project Veritas to me. Like it's either you got the girl who's like pushing the video that she's like, they are fake news because of the Bitcoin thing, or he gets like the fucking like head of Twitter, like the Twitter, like we've shut down conservatives on purpose. So it's either like a total strikeout or he hits they connect so hard that it's like, holy shit.
Right.
But Adam Dunn was still an all-star, multiple years. So like,
well, Eric Weinstein had him on for a podcast and tried to like critique him. Like, look, I like you. This is why I'm trying to tell you this. But I think people would take you even more serious if you went a certain path. I tended to like that podcast that Eric did with him because I thought he was giving him fair critiques. I thought like he genuinely was trying to help me. He's like, look, I want to wake up my liberal friends with the stuff that you're doing because a lot of the stuff you're doing is good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, also, I saw they did a Turning Point. Veritas did a thing at Turning Point USA where they made all of the whistleblowers come out and like do a dance number with O'Keefe. And I just thought to myself, like, here, these people have gone through something traumatic, whether or not I am bought by their story, but they went through something traumatic and like left their jobs and did a whole thing. Just imagine the day when they get the phone call from Veritas and they're like, hey, we want you to speak at Turning Point. Well, not really speak. Can you just learn these dance moves?
Or what if he's like, look, I have a role in Oklahoma that you're going to love.
Oh my gosh.
Can you record a couple of lines of Jubilation Tea Corn Pone for me? That's something. And just get it to me.
Oh man.
All right, we've done 2 hours.
I know because of being on Project Veritas, you've gotten death threats and you've lost your job and everything else. But could you come in and help us finish this musical?
Yeah, read these lines, Tim. No, I think you said it. This has been 2 hours.
Yes.
We gotta get some laundry done. We're going to Florida Monday.
Shit.
We're gonna have a little fun at the beach.
I'm in town with these assholes at CPAC next week. So like I hate CPAC by the way.
Oh, so we were supposed
supposed to go, but
we almost saw you.
Yeah.
I wish you would have you could have come over to the Bourbon Room.
I know.
Well, let's line it up so we're one of these events one time together, man. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. That would be fun. I'd love to come down and meet the guys at InfoWars, to be honest with you. I'd love to meet
Well, then let's set it up, man.
Yeah, dude, you're welcome down.
You're
welcome down here in Austin anytime.
Yeah. And I know Austin pretty well, like from back in the day. My favorite, I don't know what part of the town you live in, but Epic Coffee on North Loop. I used to go to.
All right, so right now we're in North, but we just literally bought a little piece of land 20 minutes south of the airport. So we're really excited to build a spot. And it's kind of like what you were saying, that small town kind of feel to where we're close enough to Austin, but we're not in Austin.
I lived at, oh my God, where did I live? I can't even remember. I should say, well, for a while I lived on Lydia and East 7th, like a block and a half from the state cemetery. The property when I lived there in 2010 was worth like $200,000, and I think right now it's worth like 1.4 million or something.
It's insane
crazy
here right now as far as
like,
real estate. That's why we're heading south.
Yeah, I don't blame you. But no, Epic Coffee in town, it spoiled me because I used to go and do work at 4 a.m. I'd go get coffee at 4 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. and hang out there. So it was fun. But yeah, anyway.
All right, thank you so much for all of the time. We'll have to do another, and I won't keep you so long, but I do appreciate your time.
No, that's the thing. Is like I'm just cutting it because I figured you guys had stuff to do.
No, we're gonna set this thing up, and we're gonna cancel on you, and then we're.
Christy said that you were trying to wrap up, and I'm like, oh, that's the cue right there. These guys are getting.
No, you said I thought there's supposed to be a half hour, so I was like,
we got other people to honey dick tonight. All right.
Look, I just can't get enough. And I think there needs, like, again, it's a very niche audience that would get it. But like, you guys get it. Like the Veritas thing, you got to see where they made these people dance. And I'm just thinking to myself, like,
is there a video?
Yeah, it was at one of the Turning Point conferences. They did. So James O'Keefe has organized a musical of his life.
Rock?
You've got to see it. So like James O'Keefe has basically organized a musical of his life. He's done this whole thing. I kid you not. I'm not exaggerating this.
I saw that part.
Don't tell her that. I'm going to have to watch this now.
Was it recent or was it, I do know that he did another musical thing. Like, was this thing that you're talking about recent or a while back?
It was like within the last year, but it wasn't.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't think I realized that was like past whistleblowers he was dancing with.
Oh my God. So they all came out at the end. He like announced them and they like all came out for like one big like grand finale. And I'm like, this is
it's like strobe lights and black lights blaze.
I will admit that I love myself, but I don't love myself like make a musical about myself. Love myself.
That's a whole nother level.
That's a level that I don't think many people like. I'm trying to think like who is on that level. So like, I guess like the Rocket Man movie that Elton John did about himself is on the same level as a musical about yourself. But like, that's it. Who else has made a musical about themselves?
Yeah. Who does do it?
Like in
I'm
general.
surprised the guy from Hamilton doesn't make something about himself with that ego he's got.
Oh, I'm surprised. Like one of the other ones he's done. I've never seen In the Heights, but I don't doubt that that's like about his life or something like that. But like, I do know, dude. I know musicals. But no, he probably says that Moana is about his life or something, because didn't he write that too? He wrote that.
Yeah, probably.
But no, I just think like people who write a musical about their lives, like Rocket Man was a movie that was basically put Elton John's songs together as a musical about his life. And like, that's the only other person other than James O'Keefe that I know put a musical together about their life. It's a lot.
Tim, let's do it again, man.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
No, it's been good.
Yeah.
All right, you do this part.
This is that moment where we're like,
logical part.
this is our Bill O'Reilly moment. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
I have by the way, I have my bourbon hat that I put on too.
Oh, cool.
And unlike Tim Pool, I have hair under my hat. A lot of people think I'm bald under there. I'm not.
All right, what do we do here?
Or did you need me to do it? One last thing. What's your you have Tim Runs His Mouth on Twitter, and then do you want to send people to your website?
No.
Okay.
If you want to buy the no hat, you can go to timyoung.com, the merch page. I've done pretty well with it. It's really fun.
And then
for a no hat or a bourbon hat.
I was shocked at how many no hats I've sold. God bless everybody.
And then what's the bourbon podcast again? I'll have to tune in.
Let's Drink Bourbon. And on Getter, it's @bourbon. On Instagram, it's Let's Drink Bourbon, and letsdrinkbourbon.com. I'm very shocked that all of that property was available.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, until next time.
Yep.
All right, my friend.
All right.
Bye.
All right, bye. Whoops. There we go.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. And yeah, we'll have to do this again.